Chapter 1. The Dog Has Nothing. In the Tongtian domain, one of the 3,000 divine provinces, specifically the Imperial Divine Province, within the Imperial Sun's residence of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, in an exquisitely luxurious room. Swear a heavenly Tao oath and surrender your primordial soul. Otherwise, don't even dream of getting engaged to me. The speaker was a woman of peerless beauty, adorned in a phoenix crown and embroidered robes, her expression as cold as ice, her eyes condescending, and her tone filled with disdain, contempt, and scorn. Standing before her was a young man dressed in a crimson wedding robe. Qingsheng, why, you didn't say that before. The woman's eyes blazed with intense coldness, and her tone grew even more frigid. What do you mean? Are you trying to say I don't keep my promises? I detest people like you the most, wanting to marry me, yet unwilling to pay the price. Do you think I, Luo Qingsheng, am some casual woman? That any Tom, Dick, or Harry can marry me? But you said you'd marry me if I obtained the Chaos Divine Treasure. After I secretly gave you the Divine Treasure, hiding it from my father and ancestor, you then demanded my Immortal Bone and Supreme Blood. Luo Qingsheng's eyes widened, and she sharply retorted, Li Shanren, are you truly foolish or just pretending to be? You are, after all, the imperial son of the Qianyuan Divine Province's foremost immortal imperial dynasty. If I hadn't said that at the time, how could I have obtained what rightfully belonged to me? Luo Qingsheng sneered and continued. In the past, your talent did slightly surpass mine. But now, your innate divine treasure, Immortal Bone, and Supreme Blood all belong to me. Do you still think you're worthy of me? I advise you know your place. Don't force what doesn't belong to you. With that, Luo Qingsheng turned gracefully and left, not bothering to spare the young man another glance, utterly heartless. You? The young man was overcome with anger, spitting out a mouthful of blood. A deep disgust flashed in Luo Qingsheng's eyes, and she said disdainfully, aside from a good family background, you're utterly useless. There's still half an hour until the official engagement. Before then, you must come to me willingly, swear the heavenly Tao oath, and surrender your soul to me. Otherwise, upon hearing this, the young man's vision went black, and he fainted. Luo Qingsheng smirked contemptuously, pushed open the door, and left. I transmigrated. Li Shanren opened his eyes, a somewhat bewildered expression on his face. In this world, cultivation leads to the Tao. Myriad races abound. Ancient families, inherited ancient clans, supreme sacred lands, ancient great sects, immortal powers. Alas, I thought transmigration would lead me to the pinnacle of life, but I turn out to be a pathetic simp. After carefully reviewing the memories in his mind, Li Shanren sighed. The owner of this body was also named Li Shanren, and his identity was the imperial son of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty. The Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty was the foremost immortal power in the Imperial Divine Province, renowned throughout the entire region, glorious and magnificent, passed down from the ancient epoch to the present day, with true immortal venerable level powerhouses among its ancestors. And this fellow was born with a chaos divine treasure, possessing the awe-inspiring battle god body, coupled with an innate immortal bone and chaos supreme blood. He was unrivaled in talent, backed by immense power, with limitless prospects. As long as he didn't perish, he was destined to become a supreme emperor, with hopes of achieving immortality. Born at the pinnacle, unfortunately, this fellow was a complete and utter pathetic simp. He clearly had several heavenly talents and divine maidens around him to choose from, all of whom were top tier in appearance, personality, talent, and family background, and all of whom looked up to him. Their feelings for him were incredibly deep. As long as this fellow had the slightest need, those heavenly talents and divine maidens would give their all. Yet, this old simp didn't even glance at those heavenly talents and divine maidens. Instead, he fawned over a conceited, arrogant, shameless bitch, Luo Qingsheng. Various sacred elixirs, divine medicines, peerless cultivation techniques and divine abilities, and even the chaos divine treasure, Immortal Bone, and Supreme Blood. As long as Luo Qingsheng uttered a word, the old simp would eagerly offer them up. In the end, he gained nothing from his simping, was forced to swear an oath of servitude, surrender his soul, and ultimately died of anger. Simps never come to a good end, destined to have nothing. This is truly infuriating. Li Shanren was very displeased with Luo Qingsheng, because, to some extent, the old simp's losses were his losses. Moreover, Li Shanren was very clear about one thing. If he didn't agree to Luo Qingsheng's terms, she would definitely expose the fact that he had lost his chaos divine treasure, Immortal Bone, and Supreme Blood. Once the Qianyuan Emperor learned that his innate divine treasure, Immortal Bone, and Supreme Blood were all gone, he would surely strip him of his imperial son title. He might even kill him directly. Even if the emperor didn't kill him, those who had once envied him and were dissatisfied with him would surely try to kill him once they learned he had been deposed. What the heck? He had just transmigrated and was already facing a dilemma. If he agreed to Luo Qingqing's terms, he would become a slave, losing his life's purpose. But if he didn't agree, he would face a life-threatening disaster. This beginning is very unfavorable. Just then, host detected. A arrogant and domineering voice echoed in Li Shanren's mind. Ding! The Peerless Empress has made a condition to you. Swear a heavenly Tao oath. Become her male concubine and servant. Surrender your primordial soul. Be at her beck and call forever, and are forbidden from touching her body. Option 1. Accept the Empress's conditions and obtain the title Empress's Best Simp. Option 2. Reject the conditions and obtain the title Steely Spine Little Simp. Option 3. Neither reject nor accept. Treat her with indifference, and bind the Villain Ancestor System. Please make your choice immediately. System? Transmigration always comes with a system. Web novels truly don't lie. Ding! Congratulations to the host for making the correct choice. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully binding the Villain Ancestor System. Host: Li Shanren. Identity: Imperial son of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty. Cultivation/level. Late stage Heavenly Human Realm /level 20. Upgrade experience 75,000/100000. Divine abilities /cultivation techniques. Imperial World Shattering Fist, Saint Tier Top Grade. Upgradable 0/1 million. Emperor's Profound Heaven Art, Saint Tier Top Grade. Upgradable 0/1000000. Physique/bloodline. Battle God Body, nearing minor completion. Upgradable 0/1000000. Innate Immortal Bone, already stripped. Chaos Supreme Blood, already drained. Number of subordinate villains, 0. System Shop, not yet open. System, what are your functions? Li Shanren asked. Ding. This system can summon various great villains from all the myriad realms to assist the host in dominating the myriad realms and controlling the universe. Hearing this, Li Shanren's expression became serious, and he felt a sense of anticipation. Ding. Newbie gift pack has been sent. Please check host. Indeed, a system always comes with a gift pack. Open the newbie gift pack. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Great Completion Battle God Body. The system has already concealed the phenomena of the Great Completion Divine Body. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Chaos Tao Embryo. The phenomena of the Tao Embryo's formation have been concealed. Ding. Congratulations to the host for summoning the villain Yi Guqing. Holy crap. Hearing the generous gifts in the newbie gift pack, Li Shanren was incredibly excited. He immediately felt a surging, powerful surge of vital energy, like a volcanic eruption washing through his body. His dantian felt a faint pain, as if something was spontaneously forming within it. The Battle God Body was one of the 5 peerless divine bodies since the creation of the primordial chaos. It granted an invincible physical body, allowing one to fight across realms. Upon great completion, it could directly contend with supreme emperors. Even with his talent, it would take considerable time to achieve great completion of the divine body, but the system had done it with a single click. Moreover, he had also obtained the legendary number 1 Tao Embryo, the Chaos Tao Embryo, which upon great completion would grant self-understanding of cultivation techniques and self-generation of divine abilities. And Sword Saint Yi Guqing. However, Li Shanren didn't have much expectation for Yi Guqing. After all, he was just a character from a wuxia novel. In this world, where powerful individuals could incinerate mountains and boil seas at the slightest disagreement, he might not be able to play a significant role. However, when Li Shanren saw Yi Guqing's attribute panel, he immediately gasped in cold air. Chapter 2. Supreme Sword Saint Yi Guqing. Yi Guqing, a villain from Lu Xiaofeng's legend, known as the Lord of White Cloud City and Sword Saint, whose swordsmanship is unparalleled. Cultivation, Supreme Triple Heaven, System Bonus, can fight above one's rank. Divine Ability, flying immortal beyond the heavens. Loyalty, 100%. Seeing Yi Guqing's attribute description, Li Shanren couldn't help but exclaim at how amazing the system was. A character from a wuxia world actually had the cultivation of the Supreme Triple Heaven and could even fight above his rank. The cultivation realms in this world from lowest to highest are Golden Body, Qi Si, Divine Ability, Life Soul, Heavenly Human, Saint Entry, Great Saint, Saint King, Supreme, Quasi-Emperor, Great Emperor. Legend has it that above the Great Emperor, one becomes an immortal. Immortal, with an imperishable body and an undying soul. Currently, in Emperor God continent, quasi-emperors are reclusive, and great emperors have disappeared. Thus, the supreme is invincible, dominating one side. The emperor of the Qianyuan imperial dynasty is precisely a supreme expert, suppressing all major forces in the entire Emperor God continent, making them unable to raise their heads and intimidating the entire Emperor God continent. However, Shanren knew that this emperor's specific cultivation was at the supreme fifth heaven. Yi Guqing, being able to fight above his rank, even if not an equal to the emperor, wouldn't be far off. Self-preservation should be no problem. In other words, he now had a supreme expert under his command who could walk unhindered in the Emperor God continent. Li Shanren's mood instantly brightened. Now, even if Luo Qingsheng revealed the matter of the divine treasure, Immortal Bone, and supreme blood, his life would be protected. Moreover, Luo Qingsheng probably wouldn't have the chance to say those words. Since I've occupied your body, I must reclaim what belongs to you. Li Shanren's face was ashen. A hint of coldness flashed in his eyes, and his entire aura suddenly changed, divine light flowing around him, carrying traces of killing intent. Ding! A mission has arrived. Mission objective: reclaim the innate Immortal Bone and Chaos Supreme Blood, ruthlessly cut down Luo Qingsheng, and eliminate the Dog Licker's resentment. Mission briefing: the Dog Licker died with his eyes open, his resentment too deep. The host has occupied the Dog Licker's body. If the resentment is not eliminated, it will affect the host. Mission reward: randomly summon a villain. Gain 1 million upgrade experience points. Li Shanren asked in his mind. System: what exactly is the purpose of upgrade experience points? The host can use upgrade experience points to improve their realm, divine body, Dao fetus, cultivation techniques, divine abilities, and so on. Even if it doesn't belong to the host, as long as the host is willing and has enough upgrade experience points, its level can be increased, such as improving the level of elixirs, magic treasures, etc. So, even the most trashy common magic treasure, as long as there are enough upgrade experience points, I can upgrade it to a saint treasure, or even a divine treasure or immortal treasure. That's right, the system will regularly issue missions. As long as the host successfully completes them, they will receive a large amount of experience points. The reward for this mission, in addition to summoning a villain, was 1 million upgrade experience points. He opened the attribute panel. Host: Li Shanren. Identity: Imperial Prince of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty. Cultivation / level: Heavenly Human Realm Late Stage / Level 20. Upgrade Experience 75,000 / 100000. Divine Abilities / Cultivation Techniques: Imperial World Shattering Fist, Saint Tier Ultimate, Upgradable 0 / 1 million. / Emperor's Profound Heaven Art, Saint Tier Ultimate, Upgradable 0 / 10000000. Physique Bloodline, Battle God Body, Great Accomplishment, Not Upgradable, Innate Dao Fetus, Initial Dao Fetus, Upgradable 0 / 10000000. Innate Immortal Bone, already stripped, Chaos Supreme Blood, already drained. Number of subordinate villains: 1. Yi Guqing. System shop: not yet open. Li Shanren glanced at the attribute panel. To upgrade the cultivation techniques and divine abilities he currently practiced, each required 1 million upgrade experience points. These cultivation techniques and divine abilities were all Saint Tier Ultimate, and one more level up would make them Divine Tier. The levels of cultivation techniques and divine abilities are divided into Mortal, Dao, Spirit, Heaven, Saint, Divine, Immortal. Each minor tier is further divided into 4 levels: low grade, mid grade, high grade, ultimate. Currently, throughout the entire Emperor God continent, only a few immortal forces possessed Divine Tier cultivation techniques and divine abilities, and these techniques were all incomplete. As for Divine Tier divine abilities, there were also restrictions. Only those who reached the Supreme Realm could cultivate them. If Li Shanren upgraded his cultivation technique, he would be the first cultivator in 1,000,000 years to cultivate a complete Divine Tier cultivation technique. And Li Shanren, based on his memories, knew that his former cultivation was at the peak of the Great Saint Realm. With 9 natal divine lotuses above his head, he only needed one more step to break through to the Saint King realm. However, with his Immortal Bone dug out and Supreme Blood drained, his strength severely declined, at most only able to exert the strength of the late heavenly human stage. The strength of a heavenly human couldn't even be considered a cultivator. There was a world of difference compared to a true Saint entry cultivator. Even if Li Shanren now displayed the cultivation of Great Saint Peak, the system, based on his true strength, showed his cultivation as only late heavenly human. Therefore, to upgrade his cultivation technique and recover his strength in the shortest possible time, he had to complete the mission and retrieve the innate Immortal Bone and Chaos Supreme Blood. Suddenly, A gentle breeze blew through the room. A figure appeared out of thin air before Shanren. This person wore a white robe like snow, spotless, with a dignified and beautiful appearance, and deep, abyssal eyes that showed coldness, arrogance, and loneliness. His aura was restrained, but he still exuded an otherworldly temperament, like an exiled immortal descending to the mortal world, displaying an air of disdain in his every glance. The next moment, the newcomer slightly bowed towards Shanren and said, "Your subordinate Yi Guqing greets master." Shanren gazed at Yi Guqing, and even though the other party was respectful and polite, he still felt an invisible pressure from him. He knew that Yi Guqing had deliberately restrained his aura and pressure to the extreme. Otherwise, with his current cultivation, he would certainly not be able to maintain his sanity. Moreover, from Yi Guqing's temperament and expression, this person possessed his own pride and dignity, clearly belonging to the type of villainous overlord who was unwilling to humble himself to others. As expected of a system, it could make such a supreme overlord willingly bow to Shanren without any complaints or dissatisfaction. Shanren asked the system in his mind, "System, will Yi Guqing's loyalty to me decrease?" "Host, please rest assured, all summoned villains are unconditionally and eternally loyal to the host." Hearing this, Shanren's deep gaze suddenly turned cold, staring at Yi Guqing, and he said in a detached tone, "From now on, you may call me young master. Now, go down and protect my safety in the shadows. When I call you, you may reappear." "As you command." Yi Guqing's figure flickered and disappeared from the room. Shanren walked out of the room and headed to the magic weapon and armory to retrieve a saber. At the upcoming engagement ceremony, Shanren not only intended to settle scores with Luo Qingsheng, but also to take the opportunity to eliminate certain potential threats. Shortly after Shanren left the room, Luo Qingsheng pushed open the door with a loud bang and said, "Shanren, how dare you not come to acknowledge me as your master and serve me?" Where is he?" Chapter 3. The Proud Beauty Su Qingyu. What Shanren didn't know was that after he left the room, a figure followed him. As he walked into the magical artifact armory, a clear voice came from behind him. "Shanren." The voice trembled slightly, with a hint of a sob, inexplicably making one's heart ache. Shanren turned at the sound, recognizing the person. Su Qingyu, the heavenly pride of the younger generation of the Su family, the first immortal family in Emperor God Continent, possessed the Dao One sacred body, the supreme Immortal Bone, and the ancient Ice Phoenix bloodline. Her talent was only slightly inferior to Shanren's. The Su family's foundation and strength were not much worse than the Qianyuan imperial dynasty. Their ancestors had also produced true, immortal, venerable powerhouses. At the same time, Su Qingyu was also a famous peerless beauty in the cultivation world of Emperor God Continent, her renown no less than Luo Qingsheng's. Both were ranked first on the Emperor God Continent's beauty list. According to memory, during a secret realm exploration, Su Qingyu was accidentally saved by the original owner of the body, and from then on, she fell irrevocably in love with him. The Dao One sacred body. It was rumored that once a person with this physique fell in love with someone, they would never change their heart unless they died. If the original owner was Luo Qingsheng's devoted simp, then Su Qingyu was the simp's simp. As long as the simp uttered a word, Su Qingyu would dedicate everything, even her own life. However, the original simp, due to Luo Qingsheng, treated Su Qingyu with extreme coldness, even resorting to harsh words. Every time Su Qingyu offered her sincere and deep affection, she was met with the simp's ruthless hurt. Compared to the arrogant and proud Luo Qingsheng, Su Qingyu was gentle, sincere, unpretentious, not arrogant or conceited, and most importantly, devoted and loyal. The simp was like a blind man, forsaking such a wonderful woman, insisting on being a damn humble simp. Looking at the gentle beauty before him, head deeply bowed and hesitant to speak, Shanren said indifferently, "Is there something you need from me?" Hearing this, Su Qingyu's body trembled slightly, her heart filled with surprise and doubt. In the past, Shanren would never have spoken to her in such a tone, nor would he have asked her what she needed. He would only coldly say, "Get lost," because Luo Qingsheng did not allow them to meet. Su Qingyu came here simply to see Shanren one last time. After today, she would go into seclusion, severing all affections and forgetting the young man before her. She had been hiding outside Shanren's room earlier, afraid of being seen, and thus dared not meet him. Now, entering the magical artifact armory, where people rarely came, she finally dared to show herself. "Shanren, congratulations on your engagement today. I won't bother you anymore." Su Qingyu couldn't help but look up, and when she saw that Shanren's eyes held no disgust, her beautiful eyes trembled slightly, a hint of disbelief flashing through them. Shanren also clearly saw Su Qingyu's appearance. Her 3,000 strands of hair cascaded like a waterfall, black and lustrous, exuding a delightful fragrance. Her features were exquisite and flawless, revealing an aura of immortal charm. A nimble, ethereal energy flowed in her eyes, carrying a transcendent, otherworldly grace. Her eyebrows were like distant mountains, her skin like congealed cream, unstained by a speck of dust. She was truly a peerless beauty. Qingyu, I remember you used to call me Brother Shanren. Why are you calling me by my full name today? Li Shanren showed a slight smile. Hearing this, Su Qingyu's heart trembled, and when she saw that smile, she couldn't help but take a few steps back. At this moment, a peculiar ripple appeared in her beautiful eyes, which were filled with despair and sorrow. This person before her, is he really Brother Shanren? Brother Shanren actually smiled at her. Su Qingyu took a deep breath, saying in disbelief, Are you really Brother Shanren? You're smiling at me. Aren't you afraid Luo Qingsheng will be angry? Haha, who I smile at? Is that Luo Qingsheng's business? Besides, you're not bad-looking. Can't I smile when I see a beautiful person? Su Qingyu's body suddenly trembled, as if a certain string in her heart had been plucked. That dark, abyssal sea of despair seemed to glimpse hope at this moment. He actually complimented me on my looks? Subconsciously, Su Qingyu pinched her exquisitely beautiful and tender cheek hard. It hurt. Everything before her was not a dream. The words she had just heard were not an illusion either. Immediately, a blush appeared on her cheeks, adding a few more points to her beauty. At the same time, tears welled up in her nimble, ethereal eyes, making her appear incredibly delicate and pitiable. Why are you crying when I complimented you on your looks? If someone else saw, they'd think I did something to you. Don't cry. Li Shanren gently wiped away the tears on Su Qingyu's cheeks. Su Qingyu recoiled another step. She was very obedient to Li Shanren, quickly wiping away her tears. Her heart pounded violently and rapidly. Her breathing was so hurried she almost suffocated. Her mind was blank, as she couldn't say a word. Alas, seeing her like this, Li Shanren couldn't help but sigh in his heart. On 21st century Earth, such devoted women were probably extinct. However, now is not the time to think about such things. Shaking his head lightly, Li Shanren began searching for a suitable and handy saber in the magical artifact armory. Luo Qingsheng was at the peak of the Saint King realm. Ordinary sabers couldn't cut her. At the very least, it had to be a heaven-tier magical artifact. Soon, Li Shanren found a suitable saber. The saber had no name. It was a top-grade heaven-tier magical artifact with a sharp blade, entirely black, appearing to be cast from black iron, and its shape somewhat resembled a butcher's pig-slaughtering knife. Since it had no name, he would call it the pig-slaughtering knife. Using this knife to cut Luo Qingsheng would be most fitting. Holding the pig-slaughtering knife, Li Shanren walked towards Su Qingyu. The latter had recovered her senses but still didn't know how to speak, so she just stared blankly at Li Shanren. Don't just stand there. Let's go to the reception hall. There'll be a good show to watch soon. The formal engagement was about to begin, and the famous Taoist factions of Emperor God Continent should all be arriving. Li Shanren was going to hack the Sao in front of everyone. Su Qingyu dare not follow. Looking at Li Shanren's back, she stammered, Brother Shanren, today is your engagement day. Luo Qingsheng Shi. Li Shanren didn't turn back, waving his hand and saying, No one will be getting engaged today. What does that mean? Su Qingyu's heart became even more surprised and doubtful. Why did Brother Shanren seem like a completely different person today? In a magnificent hall, the sounds were somewhat noisy, and many people stood about. Today was the engagement day of the Emperor son of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty and the Lord of the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty. Major powers friendly with these two imperial dynasties had all arrived, offering blessings and congratulatory gifts. The guests chatted with smiling faces, eating various rare and precious spirit fruits and delicacies with satisfied expressions. The people of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, however, wore somewhat reluctant and awkward smiles, their hearts filled with indignation. And the people of the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty looked displeased. Our Imperial Lord condescended to get engaged to your Emperor's son. That's his good fortune accumulated over several lifetimes. Look at you all. You're supposedly a famous immortal Imperial Dynasty, yet you treat us with these shoddy things. A lavishly dressed young man pointed at several plates of spirit fruits exuding rich spiritual energy, glaring at several people from the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, speaking with an arrogant demeanor. Chapter 4. The Arrogant Qinghuan Dynasty. The arrogant young man deliberately raised his voice so that all the surrounding guests could hear him. Besides him, there were also murmurs of dissatisfaction throughout the hall, all from people of the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty. That's right, today is the day of our Empress's engagement, and you, the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, are only serving us these scraps? What does this mean? Are you looking down on our Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty? I heard the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty has many sacred pills and divine medicines. Why don't you bring them out for us to eat? Eating these scraps will affect my cultivation. If it affects my future, can your Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty bear the responsibility? In fact, the spirit fruits, delicacies, and jade nectar served by the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty to entertain guests today were all extremely rare and precious spiritual items. But the people of the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty were not satisfied. They wanted to eat even more precious sacred pills and divine medicines. After all, Shanren, the crown prince of Qianyuan, was deeply infatuated with their empress Luo Qingsheng and was humbled to an outrageous degree, enduring all hardships and trying every means to please her. Conversely, Luo Qingsheng cared little for Shanren, often ignoring him, frequently mocking and ridiculing him, and even directly scolding him. Yet Shanren showed no dissatisfaction whatsoever. With this relationship, the people of the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty naturally wouldn't be polite. They usually couldn't get sacred pills and divine medicines, and the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty was the first immortal imperial dynasty, with a profound foundation and immense wealth, so they certainly wouldn't lack them. Hurry up! Shanren is, after all, the crown prince of Qianyuan. Why is he so petty? Can't he even bear to bring out a few sacred pills and divine medicines? A young man, adopting a condescending posture, slammed the table and shouted, showing no respect for the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty on such an important occasion, in front of so many guests from powerful factions. His name was Luo Su, and he was Luo Qingqing's cousin. To curry favor with Luo Qingsheng, Shanren had once issued an order that no one from the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty was to provoke anyone from the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty. The crown prince's order, apart from the emperor and the few old ancestors, was something no one in the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty dared to disobey. Therefore, Luo Su dared to demand sacred pills and divine medicines so brazenly at this time. This feeling made Luo Su very pleased and satisfied. The people of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, however, were angry but dared not speak, and had to force smiles, flattering and catering to the people of the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty, feeling utterly stifled. They wished they could immediately kill these arrogant and presumptuous people in front of them, but they dare not. Unless their crown prince Shanren no longer liked Luo Qingqing. But they all knew that was impossible. You Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty are truly insincere. Is this how you entertain distinguished guests for the crown prince's engagement? You're so stingy even before the engagement. If our empress were to marry over, wouldn't she be terribly wronged? The people of the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty grew increasingly arrogant, one after another imitating Luo Su by slamming tables and shouting. In the center of the main hall stood an elegant and noble woman, observing all of this with displeasure. She was Shanren's mother, the empress of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, Chu Hongyun. As it was Shanren's engagement today, she naturally had to be present. However, Shanren's father, the emperor of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, had not come, nor had the Imperial Dynasty's powerful cultivators with heaven-reaching abilities appeared. Because, apart from Shanren himself, no one in the entire Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty wanted the proud and arrogant Luo Qingsheng to become the crown princess. Fortunately, the emperor hadn't come. Otherwise, seeing the arrogant scene created by the people of the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty, he would surely have flown into a rage again. Beside Chu Hongyun stood a man and a woman. The man was tall and majestic, none other than Luo Tongtian, the former emperor of the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty. The woman was proud and stunningly beautiful, none other than Luo Qingsheng, the empress of the Azure Luan. Luo Tongtian glanced at his proud and beautiful daughter beside him, his eyes filled with obvious pride and self-satisfaction. What's wrong with Shanren? He's usually so proactive, but on such an important day, he's actually late. This is truly inappropriate. Luo Tongtian frowned slightly, speaking in the tone of an elder reprimanding a junior. Chu Hongyun's displeasure grew upon hearing these words. But thinking of her son's obsession with Luo Qingsheng, even going so far as to threaten suicide, she could only sigh inwardly. The guests in the hall also heard Luo Tongtian's words, their hearts filled with doubt. The auspicious time for the engagement had arrived, so why hadn't Crown Prince Shanren appeared yet? The dignified Crown Prince of Qianyuan actually has no concept of time? In my opinion, it might be better not to have this engagement. Luo Qingqing's harsh, sharp words echoed throughout the entire hall. Chu Hongyun looked at Luo Qingsheng, her eyes suddenly turning cold. This woman was too arrogant. To say such words in public completely disregarded the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty. Everyone's gaze also focused on Luo Qingsheng. The men were amazed but dared not look too much. Most of the women felt a sense of inferiority and silently lowered their heads. With all eyes on her, and seeing his daughter say such words, Luo Tongtian felt secretly pleased, but feigned anger and rebuked her. Qingcheng, don't talk nonsense. An engagement is a lifelong matter. How can you say you won't have it just like that? Originally, Luo Qingcheng shouldn't have said such words at this time, but Li Shanren, who had always been incredibly obedient to her, hadn't immediately come to acknowledge her as his master and surrender his soul, as she had demanded. This made her very displeased, so she naturally wouldn't give Li Shanren any face. Of course, she was very certain that absolutely no one present would say a single negative word about her. Indeed, even though the people of the Qianyuan imperial dynasty looked displeased, no one dared to speak up. Even Chu Hongyun suppressed the anger in her heart. There was nothing she could do. Her son simply loved this woman. Even the old ancestor of the imperial dynasty, to make her son happy, had reluctantly agreed to this marriage. Moreover, Chu Hongyun was also very clear that after Luo Qingcheng and her son were married, that old ancestor would personally take action to place a restriction on Luo Qingcheng, holding her life in his hands. Otherwise, given Li Shanren's obedient attitude towards Luo Qingcheng, wouldn't he eventually be ruined by her? Luo Qingcheng sneered and continued. So what if it's a lifelong matter? Haha, as long as I'm willing, I can cancel this engagement whenever I want. Who dares to say anything? Proud and arrogant, she disregarded everyone. Luo Su and the other people from the Azure Luan imperial dynasty also spoke up. The Empress is right. Whether to get engaged or not is up to your word. Such a stingy imperial dynasty, unwilling to even bring out sacred pills and divine medicines at the engagement banquet. If the Empress were to marry over, she would surely suffer. Did you hear, Empress? Hurry up and bring out sacred pills and divine medicines to serve us. If you displease us, we'll persuade the Empress to cancel the engagement. At this moment, respectful voices sounded from the entrance of the reception hall. Greetings, Crown Prince. Li Shanren, holding a saber, walked towards the center of the hall amidst many respectful gazes. However, when the people of the Azure Luan imperial dynasty saw Li Shanren, there was no respect in their eyes. Instead, they became even more arrogant. In their eyes, since Li Shanren had arrived, they were the masters here. Although most people present feared Li Shanren, the people of their Azure Luan imperial dynasty did not need to fear him. On the contrary, Li Shanren still had to be respectful towards them. Li Shanren, look at your Qianyuan imperial dynasty. What's going on? Today you have the honor of being engaged to our Empress. So why aren't you serving us sacred pills and divine medicines? Don't you want to get engaged anymore? Luo Su looked at Li Shanren with disdain and spoke arrogantly. Chapter 5, If Apologies Work, Why Do We Need Knives? The moment Luo Qingcheng saw Li Shanren, she immediately adopted an air of superiority, her disdain unconcealed. In her eyes, the reason Li Shanren hadn't immediately recognized her as his master and become her male concubine slave was because he couldn't let go of his shallow self-esteem. After the engagement, she was confident she could manipulate Li Shanren as she pleased. The current Li Shanren had lost his companion Chaos Divine Treasure, innate Immortal Bone, and Chaos Supreme Blood. Although he was still a battle god body, in Luo Qingcheng's eyes, he was as good as crippled. If not for the vast resources of the Qianyuan imperial dynasty, how could she possibly be here? Her earlier statement about not getting engaged was merely to give the people of the Qianyuan imperial dynasty a warning. She wanted them to understand that Li Shanren was like her, Luo Qingcheng's dog, and it didn't matter how much she disrespected the Qianyuan imperial dynasty. Because not only would imperial son Li Shanren not dare to say a word against her, but he would also eventually come running, fawning over her and begging her not to break off the engagement. At this moment, Luo Qingcheng looked at Li Shanren contemptuously and said with disdain, Imperial son, Qianyuan, certainly puts on airs. It seems you don't want this engagement after all. Luo Tongtian, standing nearby, glanced at Chu Hongyun and continued his act, saying, Qingcheng, why are you speaking nonsense again? Apologize to Imperial son immediately. Luo Qingcheng immediately retorted, Apologize? Does that Li Shanren even deserve it? Luo Su also spoke up. Utterly ridiculous. The Qianyuan imperial dynasty has slighted our Azure Luan imperial dynasty. If anyone needs to apologize, it's Li Shanren to us. He spoke with righteous indignation and an air of conviction. Regardless of who was right or wrong, the one apologizing would always be Li Shanren. Everyone turned their gaze to Li Shanren. The people of the Qianyuan imperial dynasty were filled with indignation, while the guests wore expressions of anticipation, eager to watch the show unfold. Su Qingyu also entered the main hall at this moment. Seeing the triumphant and arrogant look in Luo Qingcheng's eyes, she felt a pang of discomfort. In this woman's eyes, Brother Shanren was simply non-existent. Arrogant, selfish, and proud, she took advantage of Brother Shanren at every turn, incredibly conceited and utterly self-centered. Whenever anything happened, she would first find fault with others. Many times, even when she was clearly in the wrong, she would blame Brother Shanren and throw tantrums recklessly. And the people of the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty also completely disregarded Brother Shanren. Brother Shanren was clearly the imperial son of Qian Yuan, of extraordinary status. Yet because of this woman, even the cats and dogs of the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty dared to be insolent in front of him. Yet Brother Shanren had endured all of it. Today was no different. Brother Shanren had just appeared, and they were inexplicably demanding an apology from him. Su Qingyu's nails dug into her flesh, and a cold glint flashed in her beautiful eyes. Though she appeared like a frightened deer in front of Li Shanren, to outsiders, she was a peerless prodigy from the first immortal family. As long as Li Shanren didn't protect the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty and Luo Qingsheng, she would severely punish those from the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty present. At this moment, Su Qingyu held a hope that Li Shanren would no longer tolerate Luo Qingsheng as he had in the past. Luo Tongtian saw Li Shanren gradually approaching, and he couldn't help but feel a surge of pride, the smugness in his eyes intensifying by 3 points. However, he still had to maintain appearances, so he reprimanded Luo Su. Say, Luo Su, don't forget your place. How dare you speak to the imperial son like that? Apologize at once. Luo Su glanced at Luo Qingsheng, then boldly retorted, why should I apologize? Li Shanren wants to marry the imperial lord, yet doesn't want to pay anything. How can there be such a cheap deal in the world? I think there's no need for this engagement anymore. Chu Hongyun's expression turned terrifyingly cold. The other people of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty were also seething with anger, clenching their fists tightly. They were simply too presumptuous. Luo Tongtian also noticed Chu Hongyun's change in expression, so he raised his voice and said, nonsense. Apologize to the imperial son immediately, or else. No need to apologize. Li Shanren finally spoke, calmly interrupting Luo Tongtian. Upon hearing this, Luo Tongtian thought, as expected, then put on an apologetic look before saying, Shanren, you too. Since they made a mistake, even if punishment isn't necessary, an apology is still essential. He was absolutely certain that Li Shanren would, as always, admit all his mistakes, then smile obsequiously and cling to Luo Qingsheng, sincerely and respectfully, bowing and apologizing like a dog. What a thrill! Luo Tongtian felt a secret thrill, soaring as if swimming in a hot spring. The dignified imperial son of the first immortal imperial dynasty was so utterly devoted to his daughter. In due time, Li Shanren would surely ascend the throne and become the ruler of the Qianyuan imperial dynasty. By then, wouldn't everything of the Qianyuan imperial dynasty belong to their Azure Luan imperial dynasty? When Chu Hongyun heard Li Shanren's words, a feeling of disappointment, like steel that couldn't be tempered, arose within her. Her son had such great talent, yet why was he so subservient to one woman? Despair surged once more in Su Qingyu's heart. It turned out Brother Shanren hadn't changed after all. If apologizing worked, why would I have brought a knife today? At this moment, Li Shanren said something that puzzled everyone. It was then that everyone noticed that since he had arrived, Li Shanren had been holding a completely black knife. What did the imperial son intend to do? On such a joyous occasion as an engagement, why bring such an inauspicious knife? However, you did say one thing correctly. Today's engagement is off. Li Shanren glanced at Luo Qingsheng and Luo Su, speaking coldly. No engagement? As soon as these words were uttered, everyone was dumbfounded, their faces filled with disbelief. Who in the entire imperial divine continent didn't know that Li Shanren was madly in love with Luo Qingsheng, humble and obedient? For today's engagement, Li Shanren had sacrificed an unknown amount. Over the years, the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty's foundation had grown deeper, its strength ever increasing, leaping from a lower-tier immortal force to one approaching the pinnacle. And all of this was due to Li Shanren's active contributions. But now, Li Shanren actually said he wouldn't get engaged? Everyone thought they were hallucinating. Luo Qingsheng was also somewhat stunned. She had said no engagement countless times. Normally, Li Shanren would come begging like a dog, even going so far as to hand over his Chaos Divine Treasure, innate Immortal Bone, and Chaos Supreme Blood. But at this moment, hearing Li Shanren say these words himself, and in such an indifferent and uncaring tone, this ignited an uncontrollable surge of anger in Luo Qingsheng's heart. Her arrogance, her conceit, would not allow her to hear such words. To publicly propose canceling the engagement. This was an insult. She could humiliate Li Shanren to the extreme, but she would absolutely not allow Li Shanren to humiliate her. Since ascending to the throne, Luo Qingsheng had proclaimed herself a Peerless Empress, vowing to reach the absolute peak and dominate an era. Shanren was destined to become her male concubine slave. How dare he proactively cancel the engagement? At this moment, a white figure excitedly ran to Shanren's side and asked with a trembling voice, "Brother Shanren, you're really not getting engaged to Luo Qingsheng anymore?" Chapter 6, Slapping Luo Qingsheng. Everyone looked at the elegant white figure, recognizing her as Su Qingyu, the prodigy of the Su family. Seeing Su Qingyu dare to approach Shanren, Luo Qingsheng's eyes flashed with cold light, and a hint of murderous intent surged. Furthermore, what made her rage uncontrollable was that Shanren not only didn't consciously push away the approaching Su Qingyu, or show an expression of disgust and sternly rebuke her, but he even dared to smile at Su Qingyu. This scene, in the past, would have been utterly impossible. An intense fury, as if suffering the betrayal of a loyal dog, surged into her heart. In Luo Qingsheng's view, since Shanren loved her with the devotion of a dog, he shouldn't approach any other woman, let alone approach. He shouldn't even spare them a second glance. His eyes should only hold her, Luo Qingsheng. Towards any other woman, he should only speak ill of them and show extreme disgust. How dare he willingly smile at Su Qingyu? Shanren looked at Su Qingyu gently, a faint smile gracing his face, and softly stroked her hair, saying tenderly, "Didn't I tell you earlier? No one is getting engaged today." At that moment, Luo Qingsheng's face turned as ugly as if she had eaten excrement, and the other guests in the hall also showed expressions of disbelief. Many even gasped in surprise. "Isn't that Su Qingyu from the Su family? I heard she's always been very fond of the Qianyuan Emperor's son." "Indeed, but I heard the Emperor's son never even looked at her, and only loved Empress Luo." "What's going on now?" "The Emperor's son just announced the annulment of his engagement with Empress Luo, and now he's treating Su Qingyu with such tenderness." "This? No way. Could it be that the Emperor's son has fallen for Su Qingyu, which is why he canceled the engagement?" However, Su Qingyu is the most talented prodigy the Su family has produced in a million years, so she and the Qianyuan Emperor's son are quite a match. Speaking of which, Su Qingyu, in terms of both family background and looks, is not inferior to Empress Luo. As many guests discussed, they all cast peculiar glances at Luo Qingsheng, all with expressions of watching a good show. If Shanren really canceled the engagement today, and it was because of Su Qingyu, then something big was about to happen. However, many people were skeptical. The old Shanren had begged Luo Qingsheng to get engaged to him like a dog. How could his attitude be like this today? People might change, but it shouldn't be so fast, should it? In a corner of the main hall, an elder with terrifying cultivation and an abyss-like aura stood, letting out a soft sigh. This person was a supreme expert of the Su family, and seeing the scene before him, he felt utterly helpless. He had accompanied Su Qingyu here today, originally to let her see Shanren one last time, after which she would sever all emotional ties and focus on cultivation to attain enlightenment. Now, Shanren's sudden change in attitude towards Su Qingyu, what was going on? This way, Su Qingyu, who had just begun to forget, would likely be drawn back in. "Brother Shanren." Su Qingyu's face was filled with deep emotion and infatuation, her inner excitement beyond measure, as she gazed blankly at Shanren. At this moment, she really wanted to cry, but she tried her best to hold back. She didn't want anyone to see her tears. At this moment, Su Qingyu even felt that everything before her was unreal. It was as if everything was a dream. "Qingyu, what's with that expression? Are you not happy that I canceled the engagement?" Shanren looked at Su Qingyu's devastatingly beautiful face and gently touched her delicate, upturned nose with his finger. Witnessing Shanren's gentle actions and loving gaze, those who had previously doubted whether Shanren had truly changed his heart immediately dispelled their suspicions. In front of his fiancée, he shows such tenderness to another woman. The Qianyuan Emperor's son is indeed a man of passion. The two greatest beauties on the Emperor God Continent's beauty list. The Qianyuan Emperor's son is truly blessed. I suspect the Emperor's son's previous infatuation with Luo Qingsheng was all an act, his goal being to sleep with Luo Qingsheng. Now that he's had his fun, of course he's moving on to another woman. As the Qianyuan Emperor's son, how could he be devoted to just one woman? Why cancel the engagement? If it were me, wouldn't it be wonderful to marry both? Hearing these discussions, Luo Qingsheng could no longer suppress the anger in her heart. She strode forward, rushing a few steps in front of Shanren, and almost roared at him, pointing. "Shanren, how dare you? Do you know what you're doing?" Her sharp and piercing reprimand echoed throughout the entire reception hall. After Luo Qingsheng roared, divine light swirled around her, her aura surged, and her oppressive power instantly swept across the entire hall. She raised her right hand, preparing to slap Shanren. Some younger cultivators with lower cultivation couldn't help but retreat several steps, feeling an urge to vomit blood, and quickly hid behind the elders of their factions. Once this Peerless Empress went mad, she wouldn't care about anything. A disagreement, a slight displeasure, and she might wipe out your entire family, kill all your relatives. It was quite possible she would really strike Li Shanren here. Besides, she had hit him before. Qingsheng, don't be presumptuous, Luo Tongtian sternly reprimanded, feigning an attempt to stop Luo Qingsheng. At the same time, he glanced at Chu Hongyun, whose face was as calm as still water, her eyes like 10,000-year-old ice. Just as Luo Qingsheng's oppressive power was about to reach Li Shanren, it was neutralized by an even more terrifying force. Feeling this power, Luo Qingsheng's mind suddenly shook. Her body seemed to be confined, and all her cultivation seemed to vanish into thin air. The Peerless Sword Saint, Yi Guqing, had made his move, but he did not appear. With just one sword strike, he severed Luo Qingsheng's cultivation. The moment Luo Qingsheng rushed forward, Li Shanren had already sent a voice transmission to Yi Guqing. Crippled Luo Qingsheng. Slap. And at that moment, an incredibly loud slap suddenly echoed throughout the entire hall. The next instant, Luo Qingsheng collapsed onto the ground in a daze, her eyes filled with disbelief and anger. On her right cheek, a clear, bloody palm print appeared, conspicuously visible. If not for the vast difference in cultivation between Li Shanren and her, that slap would not have been merely a bloody mark. As the sound of the slap rang out, the surroundings immediately fell silent. Not even the sound of breathing could be heard. Many people were dumbfounded, shocked beyond belief. Especially those from the Azure Phoenix Imperial Dynasty. They had just been ready to watch Li Shanren get slapped and become a laughingstock, but now their eyes nearly popped out. In their impression, Li Shanren wouldn't even dare to speak loudly, let alone hit Luo Qingsheng. Many times, if Luo Qingsheng was slightly displeased, she would directly punch and kick Li Shanren, but he wouldn't dare to utter a single word, always submissively enduring. However, the scene at this moment seemed to open up a new world, refreshing their long-held habitual perceptions. But amidst the shock, an ominous premonition emerged in the hearts of the people of the Azure Phoenix Imperial Dynasty. Chapter 7: The Power of a Licking Dog. Inside the Grand Hall, many guests were dumbfounded. The people from the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty, on the other hand, wore expressions of fear. They had once relied on Li Shanren's humble love for Luo Qingsheng, acting arrogant and overbearing in the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty without restraint. Even knowing that the people of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty were displeased and indignant, they didn't care. This was because they were certain that no matter how annoyed the people of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty were, they wouldn't dare to lay a hand on them. After all, they had Li Shanren, their humble loyal dog, to protect them. But now, Li Shanren's face was indifferent, his eyes showing no emotion when he looked at the Imperial Lord, and that slap just now was very real. This led them to an unbelievable thought. Li Shanren, perhaps, genuinely didn't want to get engaged anymore. This also meant that their biggest backer and reliance had fallen. Indeed, the moment Li Shanren slapped Luo Qingsheng, a hint of murderous intent flashed in the eyes of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty's people. How could he hit Qingsheng? In the past, no matter how Qingsheng hit or scolded him, he never had a single word of complaint. Why? Is he really the Li Shanren who was utterly devoted to Qingsheng? Luo Tongtian's face was filled with disbelief, and the shock and fear in his eyes were incredibly intense. Luo Tongtian knew very well how deeply Li Shanren adored his daughter. Back then, when the Qianyuan Imperial Lord heard that Li Shanren had taken a liking to Luo Qingsheng, he wanted to refine Luo Qingsheng into a slave and give her to Li Shanren. After all, for the dignified imperial son of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, if he wanted a woman, he could simply seize her. Why bother with humble pursuit? But Li Shanren, being foolish, not only wanted Luo Qingsheng's body, but also her heart, and even threatened to die for it, which was why the Qianyuan Imperial Lord didn't act. Later, some of Luo Qingsheng's actions angered the Qianyuan Imperial Lord, but Li Shanren still strongly protected Luo Qingsheng, forbidding anyone from harming her. He even ordered the people of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty not to provoke the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty. No matter what excessive things Luo Qingsheng did, Li Shanren unconditionally forgave her, even humbly apologizing in return, just to win her favor. How could such a Li Shanren hit Luo Qingsheng? Luo Tongtian had just been about to stop Luo Qingsheng from slapping Li Shanren, merely wanting to put on a show for Chu Hongyun. After all, if the imperial son was slapped in public, the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty would lose face. But in Luo Tongtian's view, even if his daughter really hit Li Shanren in public, it wouldn't matter. However, What Luo Tontian hadn't expected was that the most improbable situation had occurred. Li Shanren actually dared to slap his daughter, sending her sprawling to the ground? Was this exceptionally cold young man truly Li Shanren? Luo Tontian began to doubt in his heart. Amidst his astonishment, a strong sense of fear also surged within Luo Tontian. Today, something big was likely to happen. At this moment, Luo Tontian couldn't detect any cultivation fluctuations from his daughter. His daughter's cultivation had been instantly crippled. This indicated that a supreme expert had acted in secret. It also meant that he, Luo Qingsheng, and the entire Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty were in danger. At this moment, Luo Tontian regretted it. He shouldn't have become so conceited and forgotten that the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty was the #1 immortal Imperial Dynasty, just because the formerly Shanren was so humble in front of his daughter. He shouldn't have been so sure that Li Shanren would humbly love his daughter for a lifetime. On the other side, Li Shanren, who had slapped Luo Qingsheng, now had an indifferent expression, his eyes as deep as an abyss, completely unruffled. It was as if he had just done an insignificant trivial matter. But deep in his soul, he felt an unprecedented sense of relief. Li Shanren gently wiped his hand on himself, as if he had just touched something dirty, then looked at his palm and lightly blew on it. This old simp was truly something else. Even though he felt incredibly refreshed, Li Shanren couldn't help but inwardly complain about his former self, the old simp. Where's this? The Imperial Sun's Manor of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty. What day was it today? The auspicious day of the Qianyuan Imperial Sun's engagement. So many guests from major powers had come, under the watchful eyes of all. How dare the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty be so arrogant? And there was a little idiot who dared to disrespect him, the Imperial Sun. Luo Qingsheng even dared to act brazenly and directly attack him. Especially Luo Qingsheng, as the ruler of an Imperial Dynasty, even if she looked down on the old simp, and even if the old simp truly didn't fight back or retort. She shouldn't have done such a foolish thing in this situation. This was simply a slap in the face to the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty. So arrogant and overbearing. So disrespectful to the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty. It was practically screaming two words on their faces. Courting death. This was too exaggerated, wasn't it? They were a bunch of brainless idiots. But it had happened. All because of the old simp's humble infatuation with Luo Qingsheng. Today, Li Shanren had witnessed the power of a simp. It could actually make the people of the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty so conceited, so unable to distinguish the occasion. It had made Luo Qingsheng forget who she was, made her dare to disregard everyone, become extremely self-centered, and if she was even slightly displeased, she would recklessly lash out. It had made Luo Tontian so conceited that he didn't stop Luo Qingsheng from attacking him immediately. More importantly, the surrounding guests were actually shocked. Luo Qingsheng wanted to slap him, and he slapped her back. Wasn't that only right and proper? However, the expressions on these guests' faces showed deep disbelief. What did that mean? It meant that they also thought it was perfectly normal for Luo Qingsheng to hit the old simp. Even if he was the Qianyuan Imperial Sun, even if this was the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, the old simp should be slapped by her, Luo Qingsheng, in front of so many people. Damn it, simp, may you die a horrible death. Li Shanren cursed inwardly. Immediately, he lowered his head and coldly looked down at Luo Qingsheng. On the ground, Luo Qingsheng lay there in a daze, her mind a blank. Even at this moment, she hadn't reacted. Even more unbelievable. In the past, as long as she got a little angry, or even spoke a bit louder, Li Shanren would immediately rush over like a dog, showering her with care and flattery. Even if she directly hit or scolded him, Li Shanren would let her torment him. Sometimes, she would even deliberately humiliate Li Shanren in front of the people of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, trying to test the patience of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty's experts toward her. Indeed, the Qianyuan Imperial Lord flew into a rage. But so what? Li Shanren would beg the Qianyuan Imperial Lord for her like a dog, even threatening with his life. She would stand aloof at the side, watching with amusement as the Qianyuan Imperial Lord sighed helplessly. Afterward, even if she mocked the Qianyuan Imperial Lord in front of Li Shanren would even help her speak ill of the Qianyuan Imperial Lord. Every time, it made her unable to help but laugh out loud. What was the Qianyuan Imperial Lord's status? Yet he still couldn't do anything about her. In Li Shanren's heart, she was more important than the ruler of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty. He would fulfill all her demands, even happily offering her the most precious innate divine treasures, innate immortal bones, and chaos supreme blood. So what if the Qianyuan Imperial Lord discovered this matter? Anyway, she would marry Li Shanren and would be a part of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty in the future. Would they really take back the immortal bones and supreme blood? Even if they wanted to, Li Shanren would definitely protect her. Chapter 8: Luo Qingqing's Confidence. Luo Qingqing had grown accustomed to Li Shanren's humility and subservience. In her eyes, Li Shanren was not the emperor's son of the Qianyuan imperial dynasty at all, but rather her dog. An obedient dog. With just a word from her, he would eagerly and privately send her divine treasures, immortal bones, and supreme blood, while voluntarily helping her conceal the truth until she had fully integrated the immortal bones and supreme blood. By then, even if the Qianyuan imperial dynasty discovered it, they would be unable to retrieve the immortal bones and supreme blood and would have to accept the facts. What else could he be if not a dog? However, Luo Qingqing was still not satisfied. She not only wanted Li Shanren to be a dog, but also a slave male concubine, offering up his primordial soul with his life in her hands. She could condescend to marry Li Shanren, but Li Shanren absolutely could not touch even a single one of her fingers, not even a strand of her hair. What right did a dog, an animal, have to touch its owner? It was simply an insult to her. Luo Qingqing had long set her sights on several young talents from top immortal factions. At that time, she could even use the power of the Qianyuan imperial dynasty to have Li Shanren capture them for her, raising them as male concubines to satisfy her needs in that regard. Although those young talents were slightly less gifted than Li Shanren, in other aspects, they were in no way inferior to him, and they had far more backbone than Li Shanren. More crucially, they were human, whereas in her eyes, Li Shanren was merely a beast that could be summoned and dismissed at will. She even planned to use Li Shanren to control the Qianyuan imperial dynasty in the future. By then, she would kick Li Shanren aside. But what Luo Qingqing never expected was that Li Shanren would dare to refuse to become her slave. That was one thing, but he even dared to proactively suggest canceling the engagement. Not long ago, he was still desperately begging her not to cancel the engagement, his lowly appearance utterly humble. How long had it been? And she had clearly been magnanimous enough to prepare to get engaged to him. How could his attitude suddenly change so drastically? How dare he even speak to Su Qingyu in front of her? The look in his eyes was no longer as fervent as a loyal dog's, but calm and indifferent, devoid of any emotion. This change was too fast. Could it be that after she had taken his chaos divine treasure, dug out his immortal bones, and extracted his blood, she still demanded that he swear to be her slave and surrender his soul, and he became angry because of that? No, it couldn't be. Li Shanren would absolutely not dare to give up their engagement out of anger. At that moment, Luo Qingqing was certain that Li Shanren's actions had an ulterior motive. Li Shanren absolutely could not bear to lose her. What exactly was his motive? But before Luo Qingqing could figure out the reason, she was unable to suppress the anger in her heart and couldn't help but rush forward to slap Li Shanren in public. In her opinion, no matter what Li Shanren's motive was, after a resounding slap, Li Shanren would immediately reveal his true colors and revert to being the most loyal and obedient dog he once was. However, at this very moment, the stinging pain on her face clearly told Luo Qingqing a fact. Li Shanren had actually hit her. This contrast was too terrifying. How could a dog that had always been loyal and obedient dare to bite its owner? Luo Qingqing was stunned by the blow. The Great Hall remained silent for a long time. No one spoke. A relieved smile appeared on Chu Hongyun's icy face. However, like everyone else, she was filled with shock and doubt. Why had Li Shanren's attitude suddenly changed so drastically? She even wondered if the young man in front of her was truly her son. Chu Hongyun quickly dismissed this doubt. After scanning with her divine sense, she confirmed that the person in front of her was indeed her beloved son. Finally, Luo Qingqing recovered and let out a shriek like a slaughtered pig. Her body trembled like a sieve, and she pointed at Li Shanren like a madwoman, saying, "Li Shanren, how dare you hit me?" Li Shanren revealed a meaningful smile and said, "I once loved you so much that I was willing to selflessly offer you my bones and blood. Why do you think I hit you?" He had wanted to immediately kill Luo Qingqing just now. Unfortunately, the innate Immortal Bone and Chaos Supreme Blood were still within her. If he were to kill her, he would have to wait until he retrieved the Immortal Bones and Supreme Blood. However, before retrieving the Immortal Bones and Supreme Blood, he had to use Luo Qingqing to accomplish something first. To lure out certain people. In the past, he was the emperor's son of Qianyuan, exceptionally talented, and those who were displeased with him or jealous of him dared not show it. But if they were to learn that his Immortal Bones and Supreme Blood were gone, and his position as emperor's son was about to be lost, needless to say, they would certainly jump out. Such is human nature. When you are high above, everyone flatters and fawns. Only when you fall into the depths can you see some people's true thoughts. Seeing the smile on Li Shanren's face, Luo Qingqing's inner arrogance and pride surged back like a tide. After hearing Li Shanren's words, Luo Qingcheng seemed to understand something, and the disbelief and fury on her face vanished. In its place was a kind of contempt and disdain, as if she had seen through something. Luo Qingcheng stood up from the ground, pointed at Li Shanren's nose, and with a condescending, self-righteous tone, she sneered confidently. Li Shanren, are you trying to prove that you're not a spineless coward in this way? Everything just now was an act, wasn't it? In fact, you still love me deeply. You did all this to make me feel a trace of awe for you, and then to make my attitude towards you better, right? Humph, how ridiculous. Do you think that by treating me this way, I'll look at you differently? Now, kneel down and apologize to me. Otherwise, you could forget about getting engaged to me today. After Luo Qingcheng finished speaking, she looked at Li Shanren with a smug expression. Her heart was filled with triumph. Haha, trying to play such petty tricks? Do you think that by acting a bit more principled, a bit more like a man, I won't treat you like a dog? She was certain that after Li Shanren was exposed by her, he would immediately apologize in panic. After all, Li Shanren's purpose in doing all this was for her. As soon as Li Shanren realized that all this was futile, he would give up his persistence and revert to his former humble self. Hearing Luo Qingcheng's words, those from the Azure Yuan Imperial Dynasty showed expressions of realization. This explanation, it seemed, perhaps, reasonable. They also hoped even more that this was the truth. Luo Tongtian, meanwhile, kept a close eye on Li Shanren's expression, secretly praying that what Luo Qingcheng said was true. The other guests awaited the next scene. What would Li Shanren do? Li Shanren smiled very gently, slowly extended a hand towards Luo Qingcheng, and lightly stroked her chin. Seeing this, Luo Su felt relieved and couldn't help but laugh out loud. The tension on Luo Tongtian's face gradually eased. Luo Qingcheng's lips curled slightly, and the smugness in her eyes was exceptionally obvious. Suddenly, Li Shanren's hand abruptly exerted force, and with a slap, he delivered a resounding slap to Luo Qingcheng's face. Immediately after, he grabbed Luo Qingcheng by her collar. Slap, 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 slap. A series of crisp and loud slaps echoed throughout the entire hall. Chapter 9 Emperor Qianyuan. Slap, slap, slap. Each slap was heavy and ruthless, without mercy or pity. It was as if the one being hit wasn't a person, but a thick-skinned wild boar. Luo Qingcheng was already disfigured, a gruesome sight, like a wild boar's head scorched red. She was stunned again. The surrounding guests were also stunned. Su Qingyu, who was already a bit bewildered, was even more so now. Xu Hongyun's lips curled even higher. As for Luo Tongtian, Luo Su, and the people from the Azure Yuan Imperial Dynasty, their expressions were as ugly as if they had eaten shit. A few even cried. At this moment, in this scene, the ironclad truth was laid bare. Li Shanren had truly changed his heart. Every slap declared the miserable fate of these people. I'm truly witnessing something new. Li Shanren cursed inwardly as he ruthlessly slapped Luo Qingcheng. He truly couldn't understand. This woman's ability to overthink things was truly appalling. She actually interpreted his previous actions as him trying to make her see him in a new light. Earlier, Li Shanren deliberately said blood and bone to provoke Luo Qingcheng into revealing that his immortal bone had been dug out and his supreme blood extracted. After all, Luo Qingcheng had been slapped by him, and in her anger, she naturally wanted revenge. And in Li Shanren's view, revealing that he had lost his immortal bone and supreme blood, causing his imperial sun position to be abolished, was the best revenge. After all, Luo Qingcheng had once told the old simp that if he didn't agree to acknowledge her as his master, become her slave, and offer his soul, she would reveal this matter. But what bewildered Li Shanren was that Luo Qingcheng, this woman, had been pampered beyond redemption. Her ability to overthink was so appalling, he had to admit it. In fact, what Li Shanren didn't know was that Luo Qingcheng's words about announcing his loss of the immortal bone and supreme blood were merely a threat to make him obediently become her slave and offer his soul. Luo Qingcheng didn't dare to announce the matter of the immortal bone and supreme blood under these circumstances, let alone announce it. She hadn't even told a third person about it. Even her father, Luo Tongtian, didn't know about it. Even if she were to say it, she would have to wait until she returned to the Azure Yuan Imperial Dynasty and receive the protection of the old ancestors in the court before announcing it. Normally, after Luo Qingcheng obtained the divine treasure, immortal bone, and supreme blood, she should have immediately returned to the Azure Yuan Imperial Dynasty to seek the protection of a supreme expert, which would have been more secure. But she was overly confident, and with Li Shanren's assurance, she believed that no one else would know about it. Even if they did, she wouldn't be in danger. Slap. With the last slap, Luo Qingcheng flew out like a dead dog, crashing heavily to the ground with a bang. Thump! Thump! Li Shanren slowly walked towards Luo Qingsheng, each step echoing through the silent hall. He picked up Luo Qingsheng like a dead fish and asked with a half-smile, "Now, do you know why I hit you? Was I doing this to make you see me in a new light? This kind of woman, killing her would be too easy." Li Shanren wanted to break her spirit, to make her despair, to make her deeply feel the violent impact of falling from a great height. Luo Qingsheng's eyes were filled with venomous hatred, and her face twitched violently. She wanted revenge, to retaliate fiercely. Slap, slap. Seeing the venom in her eyes, Li Shanren continued to slap her. "Li Shanren, how dare you?" Slap. Seeing his daughter humiliated in such a way, Luo Tongtian couldn't bear it any longer and roared. However, before he could finish speaking, Chu Hongyun, who was beside him, slapped him across the face. "Chu, slap. You, slap." Luo Tongtian said one word, and Chu Hongyun slapped him. Chu Hongyun's mood was extremely pleasant at this moment. She remembered how much pain she felt when Luo Qingsheng bullied her son in front of her. Watching her son, even while being beaten, desperately protect Luo Qingsheng and Luo Tongtian showing a smug expression beside them, she felt suffocated with resentment. Her husband, the Qianyuan Emperor, even wished he could dig out the innate immortal bone, drain the chaotic supreme blood, and cripple his son, allowing other quasi-imperial sons to become the imperial son. If not for her desperate protection, coupled with her son's truly good talent, the position of imperial son would have long been lost. Chu Hongyun had repeatedly advised Li Shanren, but all she got in return was her son's resentment. She didn't know what got into her son today, but his attitude had completely changed. But no matter what, she was thrilled, especially when she slapped Luo Tongtian's face repeatedly. The exhilarating satisfaction was indescribable. Luo Tongtian's cultivation was higher than Chu Hongyun's, but he dared not retaliate, nor could he retaliate. Just now, Chu Hongyun had already sent a message, informing the Qianyuan Emperor of Li Shanren's change. At this moment, the Qianyuan Emperor was hidden in a certain space in the shadows, watching all of this with satisfaction. At the same time, his pressure locked onto Luo Tongtian. Luo Tongtian was only a half-step supreme, and under the pressure of a supreme realm fifth heaven expert, he could do nothing but take the beating. This brat finally wised up. The Qianyuan Emperor also doubted if Li Shanren was himself, and probed with his divine sense. However, when his divine sense swept over Li Shanren's body, the satisfaction on his face was immediately replaced by shock. Then he immediately checked Luo Qingsheng, and the shock instantly turned into fury. Even with the Qianyuan Emperor's temperament, he now wished he could immediately strike and kill this idiotic son. "No wonder he didn't come to see me today, you beast." He even gave her the accompanying chaotic divine treasure, and even the innate immortal bone and chaotic supreme blood are on her. The Qianyuan Emperor thought for a moment. He could guess the reason. Fortunately, he discovered it in time. The immortal bone and supreme blood had not yet been fully integrated by Luo Qingsheng and could be retrieved. The chaotic divine treasure was still within the Qianyuan imperial dynasty, so it could naturally be retrieved as well. However, the retrieved divine treasure, immortal bone, and supreme blood might no longer belong to Li Shanren. The imperial son of the Qianyuan imperial dynasty might be replaced. Oof. Li Longyuan, you have a good son, truly generous, to even give away a chaotic divine treasure. At this moment, the Qianyuan Emperor heard a cold voice transmission. The owner of the voice was another supreme expert of the Qianyuan imperial dynasty, the Qianyuan Emperor's biological elder brother, Prince Qianyuan Li Qingyin. Ever since Li Shanren became infatuated with Luo Qingsheng, Li Qingyin had always insisted on deposing Li Shanren and establishing another imperial son. The Qianyuan Emperor, Li Longyuan, had a solemn expression, thinking that his foolish son's position as imperial son was probably not salvageable. In this space, besides Li Qingyin, several other figures appeared. They were all supreme experts, holding crucial positions in the Qianyuan imperial dynasty. Judging by their expressions, they wished they could immediately kill Li Shanren. Today was the imperial son's engagement, and although they didn't come to the reception hall of the imperial son's mansion, they were entertaining supreme experts from other major forces in the Qianyuan imperial palace. After Chu Hongyun sent a message to Li Longyuan, a hint of surprise flashed in the latter's eyes, and he immediately rushed here. Li Qingyin and other supreme experts came here out of curiosity, but they didn't expect Li Shanren to do something so utterly foolish. Chapter 10, Domineering Response. Crack. A sound of space shattering echoed. The next moment, several terrifying figures appeared in the reception hall. "Greetings, Emperor. We greet Emperor Qianyuan." Seeing Li Longyuan, dressed in a dragon robe, everyone respectfully bowed. What no one noticed was that as Emperor Qianyuan and other supreme powerhouses appeared, a white-robed figure materialized among the crowd closest to Shanren. This person's aura was completely restrained, immaculate and untainted. Besides the Su family powerhouse who accompanied Su Qingyu, no one else noticed him. The supreme being who previously severed Luo Qingqing's cultivation should be this person. The Su family powerhouse also had no aura around him, appearing like an ordinary mortal elder. At this moment, the elder was puzzled, a thoughtful expression on his face. He knew all the supreme powerhouses of the Qianyuan imperial dynasty, but he had never seen the white-robed figure before. The white-robed figure gave him a very dangerous feeling, like a sharp sword ready to be unsheathed at any moment, hidden but not yet drawn. Once unsheathed, it would surely shake the heavens and earth. How strange! Why did Li Shanren's attitude suddenly change today, the Su family elder thought. At the same time, he looked affectionately at Su Qingyu, who was still in a daze, and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Needless to say, their Su family's favored daughter of heaven had completely fallen for him. The former Li Shanren was madly infatuated with Luo Qingqing and treated Su Qingyu terribly. Even then, Su Qingyu was unwilling to give up on Li Shanren. Now that Li Shanren's attitude had drastically changed and he had fiercely slapped Luo Qingqing, Su Qingyu naturally believed she had a chance. Li Shanren, how dare you? Li Qingyin glared, his eyebrows furrowed in anger, and pointed at Li Shanren, shouting sharply. Everyone was filled with doubt. What was happening now? The Qianyuan imperial prince's attitude had just drastically changed, and he had fiercely slapped Luo Qingqing. Now, a supreme powerhouse from Qianyuan was pointing at the imperial prince and shouting sharply, and the disgust in his eyes made it seem as if Li Shanren had committed some heinous crime. During the period when Li Shanren was infatuated with Luo Qingqing, he had squandered a lot, selflessly offering many treasures of the Qianyuan imperial dynasty to the Azure Luan imperial dynasty. Now that Li Shanren was no longer devoted to Luo Qingqing, shouldn't these Qianyuan powerhouses be happy and praise Li Shanren? Why this attitude? Prince Yin Chu Hongyun was displeased with Li Qingyin's tone toward her son. Just as she was about to say something, she was coldly glared at by Emperor Qianyuan, Li Longyuan, who also transmitted a message to her. Immediately, Chu Hongyun's face turned ashen, and a deep look of disappointment flashed in her eyes. The words on her lips were forcefully swallowed back. Originally, her son finally showed some backbone in front of Luo Qingqing, and she, as a mother, was overjoyed. But at this moment, she couldn't bring herself to be happy. The divine treasure, Immortal Bone, and Supreme Blood had all been taken, so Li Qingyin naturally wouldn't have a good attitude. Upon hearing Li Qingyin's words, Li Shanren stopped hitting Luo Qingqing, throwing her to the ground like a dead dog. He turned to look at Li Qingyin and asked, I've always been bold. What do you mean by that, Prince Yin? Li Qingyin's face grew even angrier, seeing Li Shanren's calm and composed expression. He shouted, You privately gave the Chaos Divine Treasure to Luo Qingqing, and also privately transplanted the innate Immortal Bone and Chaos Supreme Blood to her. Your crime is unforgivable. Hiss. As soon as these words were spoken, many guests present couldn't help but gasp several times. They all released their divine senses to investigate Li Shanren and Luo Qingqing. After confirming Li Qingyin's words, they looked at Li Shanren with an expression as if he were an idiot. This Li Shanren was truly something. He was so humble that he could even give such important things to Luo Qingqing. He truly squandered everything to the bone. However, many people were also puzzled. Li Shanren was even willing to part with a divine treasure, Immortal Bone, and Supreme Blood. This indicated that his love for Luo Qingqing had completely made him lose his mind. So why would he slap Luo Qingqing now? It was getting more and more exciting, and many people were looking forward to seeing how things would unfold next. Li Shanren was not flustered at all. He looked at Li Longyuan, his cheap father and former simp, and said, Dad, I was ignorant before and did things I shouldn't have, but I am still the Qianyuan imperial prince. I was before, and I will be in the future. I must take back what belongs to me, and no one should even think of touching my things. Although the previous actions of the simp were indeed out of line, since Li Shanren had arrived, he had to change the current situation. He absolutely had to retrieve the innate Immortal Bone and Chaos Supreme Blood. The position of Imperial Prince must also be secured. However, to retrieve them, he would need the power of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty's medical supreme being, as well as the bone-digging blade and blood-drawing tray from the Qianyuan treasury. Originally, the former simp had voluntarily offered the Immortal Bone and Supreme Blood. Now, he wanted to forcibly retrieve them from Luo Qingqing, which he couldn't do with his own abilities alone. He needed Emperor Qianyuan, Li Longyuan, to agree before he could smoothly retrieve the Immortal Bone and Supreme Blood. Otherwise, Li Shanren wouldn't have thought of using Luo Qingqing to lure out some petty villains earlier. Now, the villains hadn't even jumped out yet, but Li Chengyin had already preemptively shown his attitude towards him. Not only Li Chengyin, but the eyes of the other Qianyuan supreme beings present, except for Li Longyuan, were filled with disgust and contempt for Li Shanren. Li Shanren firmly remembered these faces. Once he gained strength, he would kill them one by one. Presumptuous. As the Qianyuan Imperial Prince, you committed such a foolish act, and you still want to continue being the Imperial Prince? Today, your position as Imperial Prince shall be abolished. Li Chengyin shouted. Li Shanren didn't even glance at him, his gaze still fixed on Li Longyuan. It wasn't Li Chengyin's place to abolish his position as Imperial Prince. Let's not talk about the Imperial Prince position for now. First, retrieve the Immortal Bone and Chaos Blood. Li Longyuan did not agree with Li Chengyin's words, nor did he respond to Li Shanren. Soon, a medical supreme being arrived with the bone-digging blade and blood-drawing tray, ready to dig out the bone and draw the blood. Luo Tongtian watched this scene with an ashen face, not daring to say anything. Earlier, he had transmitted a message to the supreme powerhouses of the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty, hoping they would come to save Luo Qingsheng. They immediately cursed Luo Qingsheng for being a fool. However, cursing aside, they still rushed over immediately. Crack! The sound of space shattering echoed. Several powerhouses from the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty arrived. Do it! Li Longyuan completely ignored them and ordered the medical supreme being to proceed. As Luo Qingsheng's bone was dug out and blood drawn, her agonizing screams echoed throughout the entire reception hall. The several powerhouses from the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty were displeased in their hearts, but they dared not show it on their faces. One of the supreme beings cupped his hands towards Li Longyuan and said, "Greetings, Emperor. We were unaware of this matter, and we hope the Emperor will see clearly." That's right. They came here not to save Luo Qingsheng, but to distance themselves from her. These supreme beings cursed Luo Qingsheng thoroughly in their hearts. Utterly foolish. Did she really think that just because the Qianyuan Imperial Prince loved her so humbly, she could do whatever she wanted? Making her own decisions to take divine treasures, dig out immortal bones, and draw supreme blood, and not even informing them. Chapter 11 Reasons for the Sudden Change in Attitude. Emperor Qianyuan, Li Longyuan, coldly glanced at the several supreme powerhouses of the Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty, without saying a word. However, the meaning in his eyes was clear. Regardless of whether you knew about the foolish things Luo Qingsheng did, if you don't give an explanation today, you will bear the consequences. The supreme powerhouses of the Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty were furious and cursed Luo Qingsheng countless times in their hearts. This foolish woman. They shouldn't have broken the rule to make her the Cyan Phoenix Emperor in the first place. Originally, with Luo Qingsheng's cultivation, temperament, and methods, she was completely unqualified to be the ruler of the Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty. But because of Li Shanren, the supremes of the Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty, in order to gain more benefits and to give enough face to the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, ordered Luo Tongtian to abdicate and let Luo Qingsheng ascend the throne and become emperor. After all, once Luo Qingsheng became the Cyan Phoenix Emperor, she could use the reason of strengthening the Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty to demand a large amount of cultivation resources and treasures from Shanren. At the same time, for their Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty's dignified emperor to marry an imperial prince, it would also give the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty a lot of face. And Li Shanren's subsequent continuous dedication and effort also greatly satisfied these supreme powerhouses of the Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty. However, the supreme powerhouses of the Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty were very clear that some things should not cross the line. They had also repeatedly emphasized to Luo Qingsheng to know when to stop and not to try to challenge the bottom line of the important figures of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty. Evidently, Luo Qingsheng's current actions were foolish beyond description. They didn't realize that when an arrogant woman is elevated to a certain height, she stops thinking with her brain. Luo Qingsheng has committed heinous crimes. Effective immediately, her position as Cyan Phoenix Emperor is abolished. She will be executed by slow slicing. Her soul will be extracted and cast in the 9 netherine fire, to suffer the torment of soul-devouring fire forever. After a supreme from the Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty finished speaking loudly, he immediately bowed to Li Longyuan again, preparing to say something, but Li Longyuan waved his hand, interrupting him. "We will decide how to deal with Luo Qingsheng ourselves. As for you few, since you've come, leave your lives behind." What? The several supreme powerhouses of the Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty were somewhat incredulous. Luo Qingsheng made a mistake. Why should they pay with their lives? Before they came, they knew the Emperor Qianyuan would be angry, but they never expected that he would directly want their lives. Li Longyuan, do you intend to provoke a war between the two dynasties? The leading supreme powerhouse of the Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty urgently asked. Unfortunately, he received no response. In the next instant, all several supreme powerhouses of the Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty perished, turning into dust, without even a chance to retaliate. The guests present widened their eyes. Except for the old man from the Su family, no one saw who made the move, nor did anyone clearly see how those supreme powerhouses died. Even Yi Guqing didn't see it clearly. He only felt an extremely terrifying aura sweep through the entire hall, filled with monstrous killing intent. Upon seeing this scene, Li Shanren's heart tightened. Instantly killing Supremes, it was highly likely that a legendary quasi-emperor powerhouse had made a move. He also hadn't expected that the actions of the old lickspittle would anger Li Longyuan to such an extent, even at the cost of starting a war between the two dynasties. He didn't know that Emperor Qianyuan killed these supreme powerhouses not only to vent his anger, but also to establish his authority. A war between two dynasties? People of your Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty dared to dig out the bones of my Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty's Imperial Prince and draw the blood of my Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty's Imperial Prince. You deserve to be exterminated down to the 9th generation. Li Longyuan spoke these words lightly, as if he had just done a trivial matter. At the same time, he was also telling everyone that the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty was preparing to annihilate the Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty. Under Li Shanren's selfless dedication, the Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty had indeed developed and grown quite a bit over the years. However, in the eyes of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, it still amounted to nothing. How could the foundation of the first immortal Imperial Dynasty in Emperor God continent be ordinary? Li Longyuan's words also served as a warning to everyone present. The Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty could flourish by leveraging the Qianyuan Imperial Prince, and could also be arrogant and overbearing under the Qianyuan Imperial Prince's humble and infatuated love. Who told this Qianyuan Imperial Prince to be so useless? Under the foolish Imperial Prince's strong protection, the Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty could take advantage of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty and openly disrespect the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty. However, once this idiotic Imperial Prince changed his heart, then the Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty would face the fate of extinction. Its life and death, prosperity and decline, all depended on the Imperial Prince, Li Shanren's single thought. As the several supreme powerhouses of the Cyan Phoenix Imperial Dynasty died instantly, Luo Tongtian's face turned ashen, and Luo, Su, and others, who had been incredibly arrogant before, were now scared out of their wits, with several even wetting themselves. They couldn't understand it at all. Why would Li Shanren, who was as infatuated as a dog, change his heart? At this moment, accompanied by an incredibly shrill scream, the Immortal Bone and Supreme Blood had been extracted from Luo Qingqing's body. The atmosphere in the hall became even more solemn. Next, it was about Li Shanren's issue. Would the Immortal Bone and Supreme Blood eventually return to Li Shanren? Li Longyuan kept staring at Li Shanren, as if trying to see through him. Even now, he, like everyone else, doubted whether the person in front of him was truly his son. One must know that when Luo Qingqing screamed just now, he had been observing Li Shanren's expression. But Li Shanren remained expressionless from beginning to end, as if the one screaming was not his former beloved. What on earth happened to cause such a drastic change in Li Shanren before and after? Shanren, let me ask you, what exactly caused you to change your attitude towards Luo Qingqing? Li Longyuan finally couldn't help but ask his inner thoughts. He had once tried countless methods, but couldn't change his son's obsession with Luo Qingqing. How did he suddenly achieve enlightenment? Li Shanren had already thought of the answer and said, Luo Qingqing threatened me back then, saying that if I didn't give her the Chaos Divine Treasure, she wouldn't get engaged to me. So, I secretly gave her the Divine Treasure without telling you all. But she wasn't satisfied. She also wanted my innate Immortal Bone and Supreme Blood, or else she wouldn't get engaged. I knew I shouldn't do it, but I loved her too much. To get engaged to her, I voluntarily allowed my bones to be dug out and my blood to be drawn. Li Shanren felt a wave of disgust in his heart. But to prevent others from realizing that he was no longer the old lickspittle, he had to put on a deeply emotional performance at this moment. However, after getting the Immortal Bone and Supreme Blood, she still wasn't satisfied. She ordered me to swear allegiance to her, to become her slave male concubine, and she also wanted me to hand over my primordial soul and entrust my life to her. As he spoke, Li Shanren gritted his teeth, as if he wanted to shatter them, his fingernails digging into his flesh, drawing out crimson blood. Many people who heard this couldn't help but gasp. Chu Hongyun's head swelled with anger, wishing she could immediately rush over and dismember Luo Qingqing. But Li Longyuan's expression remained unchanged, showing no signs of joy or anger. Li Shanren stomped his foot and beat his chest, continuing, "Facing such a demand, I almost agreed to her at that time. However, she then made another demand. The crucial part was coming. The following words would definitely be the reason for Li Shanren's drastic change in attitude. Chapter 12, How to Lick to Despair? Li Shanren took a deep breath and gritted his teeth, saying, Luo Qingsheng said she would deign to get engaged to me, but I had to keep the Immortal Bone and Supreme Blood a secret until she had fully integrated them. And she also wanted me to promise that if the matter of the Immortal Bone and Supreme Blood were discovered, I would have to take the blame, saying that I insisted on giving her the Immortal Bone and Supreme Blood, and she only accepted under duress. Upon hearing this, Chu Hongyun asked indignantly, My foolish son, you agreed to such a demand? She already knew the answer in her heart. Li Shanren nodded. Chu Hongyun suppressed the anger boiling within her and asked, Good. Tell me what other outrageous demands this bitch made. The temperature in the main hall suddenly dropped by more than 10 degrees, making those with lower cultivation shiver uncontrollably. Li Shanren's expression grew even more indignant, and he continued with hatred. As long as she was willing to marry me and become my wife, I agreed to all these demands because I believed that once we became husband and wife, shared a bed, and spent time together, I was confident I could make her fall deeply in love with me too. When Su Qingyu heard the words shared a bed, a hint of jealousy and hatred flashed in her eyes. As long as she could fall in love with me, then everything I had done before would be worth it. Although these words disgusted Li Shanren, they were indeed the true thoughts of the original simpering dog. Unfortunately, he thought too much. Li Shanren added, But I didn't expect that she wouldn't even give me this chance, and she even made me swear. He panted heavily, as if he was so angry he was about to explode, and continued, She made me swear never to touch her body, and only to be a superficial couple with her. Agreeing to deign to marry me was already the greatest favor to me. No matter how much I pleaded, she refused to change her mind. Li Shanren suppressed the urge to vomit as he spoke these words. These were true words, without a single lie. Moreover, she vaguely hinted that she would go find other men to sleep with in the future, but I wasn't allowed to find other women, not even to look at them. She could be promiscuous and seek pleasure, but I could only love her wholeheartedly and have no other thoughts. After speaking, Li Shanren couldn't help but once again admire Luo Qingqing's foolishness. It was one thing for her not to like the old simp. She wouldn't even let him touch her body. Did she want to starve him to death? And she wanted to openly cuckold him. Seriously, she was the ultimate bitch. Hiss. Upon hearing this, many men present couldn't help but look indignantly at Luo Qingqing, who was unconscious on the ground like a dead dog. This woman was truly out of control. However, they admired Li Shanren even more. After hearing these words, he still didn't immediately kill Luo Qingqing? Admirable. Admirable. Truly admirable. If they knew that the old simp not only didn't kill Luo Qingqing, but was actually angered to death, they would probably be even more impressed. At the same time, most of the people present understood why Li Shanren's attitude had suddenly changed. Li Shanren's goal was to win Luo Qingqing in her heart. Previously, Li Shanren saw an opportunity and hope, so he was naturally willing to be humble. After all, as long as the ultimate goal could be achieved, a little loss was bearable. However, making Li Shanren swear not to touch her body directly cut off Li Shanren's opportunity and hope. Without hope, in despair, he would naturally give up completely. More importantly, she dared to openly state that she would go find other men in the future, and she wouldn't allow Li Shanren to find other women. She could be a slut, but others could only serve her wholeheartedly. If he could tolerate this, Li Shanren might as well just bash his head in and commit suicide. However, many people still gave Luo Qingqing a thumbs up in their hearts. Awesome. She was truly awesome. Chu Hongyun could no longer tolerate it. She activated her magic power. Wisps of profound Tao principles entwined around her body. Tao rhyme flowed. Dots of divine light shot from her eyes, and her entire aura suddenly changed, filled with murderous intent. She was about to cruelly torture Luo Qingqing. However, Li Longyuan had already appeared beside Luo Qingqing, casting a divine ability to search her soul and read her memories. Luo Qingqing screamed again, her body twisted, her limbs curled and deformed, forming a bizarre and terrifying posture. Seeing this, Li Shanren was glad that he had spoken truthfully and hadn't lied. He thought to himself that this Emperor Qianyuan was truly cautious. He probably still suspected whether he was the original simpering dog. After all, a sudden drastic change in attitude, even with sufficient reasons, was worth suspecting. Li Shanren wasn't worried about Li Longyuan searching his soul, because he had just asked the system. The system guaranteed that nothing would be found through soul searching. After the soul search, Li Longyuan's expression was terrifyingly grim. How embarrassing. How could he have such a son? If Luo Qingsheng hadn't said not to touch her body, this fool probably wouldn't have woken up. He looked coldly at Li Shanren, about to say something. Just then, Chu Hongyun suddenly rushed to Li Shanren's side, raising her hand as if to slap him. Li Shanren didn't dodge, because he knew that his predecessor's cheap mother would never actually slap him, because this situation had happened countless times before. Every time, Chu Hongyun couldn't bring herself to do it. However, the white-robed figure in the crowd suddenly changed his expression, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. It was as if Chu Hongyun dared to strike, he would immediately intervene to stop her. "Aunt Chu, no." Su Qingyu hastily spoke up to dissuade her. "Qingyu, how could you fall for such a fool?" Chu Hongyun indeed couldn't bring herself to strike. She looked at Su Qingyu and said with disappointment, "I'm so disappointed in you." In the corner, the old man from the Su family also wanted to ask the same question. How could his precious girl fall for a fool like Li Shanren? Li Longyuan looked meaningfully at his wife, then at Su Qingyu, as if he had understood something. At this moment, under these circumstances, his wife suddenly asking the daughter of the first immortal family's top prodigy, this question certainly had other intentions. Earlier, seeing the anger on the faces of Li Qingyin and others, Li Longyuan knew that his foolish son's position as imperial son was definitely not salvageable. Not only that, Li Qingyin and the others probably wouldn't allow the innate immortal bone and chaotic supreme blood to be easily returned to his son. Even if his foolish son had now awakened, it wouldn't matter. After all, he had personally given away the divine treasure, immortal bone, and supreme blood. It was easy to give them away, but how difficult it would be to get them back. He would have to suffer a bit. But if his foolish son's fiancée could be replaced by the Su family's prodigy, then things would be much easier. Not only could he retrieve the divine treasure, immortal bone, and supreme blood, but the position of imperial son might also be preserved. Li Qingyin and the others probably wouldn't dare to say anything. After all, the relationship between the old ancestor and that senior from the Su family was very good. Li Longyuan knew very well Su Qingyu's infatuation with his foolish son. With just a word from his son, it would be as easy as pie. His wife's intentions at this moment couldn't be more obvious. Chapter 13, Price Gouging. Although Li Longyuan was also very disappointed with Li Shanren, objectively speaking, Li Shanren truly had no major flaws other than his humble love for Luo Qingsheng. Divine treasures, unparalleled physique, heaven-defying bloodline, extraordinary comprehension, exceptional talent. Even his character and methods were outstanding. However, whenever he faced Luo Qingsheng, he inexplicably turned into a brainless fool. If not for Luo Qingsheng, Li Shanren's position as imperial son would be well-deserved. Otherwise, Li Longyuan would have long since personally dug out his bones, drawn his blood, taken the chaos divine treasure, and abolished his idiotic son's position as imperial son. Now that the idiot had finally seen the light and had a sudden awakening, his biggest flaw had been corrected. Li Longyuan naturally hoped that Li Shanren would continue to hold the position of imperial son. What's more, once Li Shanren's position as imperial son was abolished, then the Qianyuan imperial dynasty would once again face a cruel struggle for the position of imperial son, and many troublesome matters would follow one after another. The struggle for the imperial son's position would inevitably be accompanied by a storm of blood and mountains of corpses. Unfortunately, it was difficult to please everyone, and the foolish act of his idiotic son personally giving away divine treasures, immortal bones, and supreme blood was truly humiliating. More importantly, the ancestor had just sent a message to Li Longyuan, expressing a hint of dissatisfaction with Li Shanren. Although he did not explicitly state that Li Longyuan should abolish Li Shanren's position as imperial son, he would certainly no longer fully support Li Shanren's position. Back then, Li Shanren was able to become an imperial son exceptionally because that ancestor had spoken, so no one dared to refute a single word. Later, Li Shanren was able to get engaged to Luo Qingsheng, also because that ancestor had nodded in approval. But now, without the ancestor's support, even though Li Longyuan was the ruler of the dynasty, he would not be able to override all objections and forcibly keep Li Shanren's position as imperial son. Currently, the best way for Li Shanren to keep his position as imperial son was to get engaged to Su Qingyu. After all, that senior from the Su family regarded Su Qingyu as a treasure. Chu Hongyun's sudden question to Su Qingyu, "Why do you like Li Shanren?" was naturally intended to seize the opportunity to lead the conversation to engagement. This was to leverage the power of the Su family senior to help Li Shanren. Upon hearing Chu Hongyun's sudden question, Su Qingyu did not answer directly, but looked straight at Li Shanren and asked, "Brother Shanren, why did you like Luo Qingsheng so much?" Li Shanren retorted, "Does liking someone require a reason?" Although he said that, Li Shanren himself was, damn it, not clear. How could the old simp have fallen for Luo Qingsheng? If he had to find a reason, It should be cheapness. In fact, according to his memories, Li Shanren knew that if his former self hadn't been such a simp, taking down someone like Luo Qingsheng shouldn't have been a big problem. Unfortunately, the old simp was too humble, which made Luo Qingsheng forget who she was and not treat the old simp as a person at all. As the saying goes, the more you simp, the further she gets. Conversely, the further she gets, the more the old simp, damn it, wants to simp. Commonly known as driving up the price, while simultaneously lowering one's own worth. However, what Li Shanren cared about most at this moment was not the question of liking or not liking. From the moment the innate Immortal Bone and Chaos Supreme Blood were taken from Luo Qingsheng, he had been pondering how to retrieve them immediately. Now, seeing Chu Honyun wink at him, Li Shanren naturally knew what to do next. His current situation was not optimistic. Although Li Qingyin and others had remained silent, their expressions already indicated they wanted to abolish his position as Imperial Son. At the same time, they would not easily return the divine treasure, Immortal Bone, and Supreme Blood to him. Li Shanren didn't care about the position of Imperial Son, but he absolutely had to retrieve the 3 supreme treasures. After all, this was a system mission. Li Shanren was about to speak when he saw Su Qingyu clench her fists tightly and interject first. But I have a reason for liking Brother Shanren. Chu Honyun quickly asked. Quick, tell me, what's the reason? Su Qingyu's eyes became even more determined. Because Brother Shanren saved me, because Brother Shanren is a loyal and devoted person, and also because, at this point her fair face turned rosy, and also, Brother Shanren, you are very handsome, and also, subsequently, Su Qingyu listed many more of Li Shanren's virtues. By the end, her voice was as faint as a mosquito's buzz. Indeed, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Li Shanren himself didn't realize he had so many virtues. He couldn't help but want to retort, Sister, you're overthinking it. The old simp isn't as good as you imagine. However, Li Shanren couldn't refute the point about being handsome at all, because whether it was the old simp or himself, he truly had this small, almost insignificant virtue, handsomeness. The surrounding guests, upon hearing Su Qingyu's heartfelt words, looked at Li Shanren in surprise. They wondered in their hearts, was this imperial son of Qianyuan really that excellent? Many young women carefully looked at Li Shanren's face, and their cheeks couldn't help but flush slightly. Li Qingyin and the others had wanted to stop Su Qingyu from speaking earlier, urging Li Longyuan to quickly announce the abolition of Li Shanren's imperial son position. At the same time, they wanted to reclaim the Chaos Divine Treasure and temporarily seal the innate Immortal Bone and Chaos Supreme Blood. They were very dissatisfied with the ancestor directly naming Li Shanren as Imperial Son back then, but they dare not say much. Now that they'd found an opportunity, how could they let it go? However, just as they were about to speak, an old voice suddenly echoed in their minds. The expressions of the few immediately changed, and they dared not speak again. On the other side, after listening to Su Qingyu, Chu Honyun went over, took Su Qingyu's hand, and gently said, Qingyu, since you like this idiot so much, are you willing to marry him? I am. Su Qingyu spoke without hesitation, her tone firm. The people around, upon hearing this, couldn't help but admire Su Qingyu's persistence towards Li Shanren. Many men cast envious and jealous glances at Li Shanren. However, as soon as Su Qingyu finished speaking, she looked at Li Shanren with expectant eyes, nervously saying, It's just that I don't know. I don't know if Brother Shanren is willing. The last 2 words, marry me, she only mouthed without making a sound. Before Li Shanren could speak, Chu Honyun interjected again. Willing, Shanren is definitely very willing. Su Qingyu shook her head. I want to hear Brother Shanren's true thoughts. After saying that, she looked at Li Shanren stubbornly and anxiously. Willing? Why not? Such a beautiful girl, young and talented, from an extraordinary family, daring to love and hate, and with a good personality. Why wouldn't he be willing? However, he couldn't say it directly at this moment. He had just ended his messy affair with Luo Qingsheng, and then immediately said he wanted to marry Su Qingyu. That would be too obviously slag. Moreover, the former old simp didn't like Su Qingyu at all. Now, to say he wanted to marry her, anyone with eyes could see that he was clearly trying to use her status to keep his position as Imperial Son. After a quick thought, Li Shanren showed a sincere expression and said in an emotional tone, I'm sorry, Qingyu, I can't give you an answer right now. Chapter 14, Who Objects? Although I don't want to admit it, before today, Luo Qingsheng was the only one in my heart. Even if she's nothing but a fart in my eyes now, that doesn't mean I can immediately fall in love with someone else. Qingyu, I have a good impression of you, but it's not yet love. And I will never marry a woman I don't love. Li Shanren stared into Su Qingyu's beautiful eyes, saying each word clearly. Everything he said was the truth, And, at this moment, the truth was far more useful than a lie. Besides, with Su Qingyu's intelligence, she could surely guess that if he said he was willing to marry her now, it wouldn't be sincere, but merely to use her. Perhaps she would be willing to be used, but the Su family behind her might not be. Just now, a voice transmission suddenly echoed in Li Shanren's mind. You foolish boy, you'd better think carefully before answering. I'm very displeased with you right now. Qingyu is my brother Su's treasure. If you dare to make her unhappy again, even if brother Su flays you alive, I won't intervene. Li Shanren recognized the owner of this voice, an old ancestor of the Qianyuan imperial dynasty, whose apparent cultivation was the peak of the ninth heaven of supremacy, a half-step quasi-emperor. However, there were also rumors that the old ancestor had already entered the quasi-emperor realm, but had deliberately suppressed his cultivation for some reason. The person who instantly killed the supreme expert of the Azure Phoenix imperial dynasty earlier should be this old ancestor. The old lickspittle was able to become an imperial son and grovel to Luo Qingsheng without being deposed, all because of this old ancestor. And the brother Su in the old ancestor's mouth, needless to say, was definitely that old senior from the Su family. This old senior was extremely protective and particularly doted on Su Qingyu. Once, when the old lickspittle made Su Qingyu sad and cry, that old senior from the Su family would always come to the Qianyuan imperial dynasty with a large cleaver, radiating murderous intent, declaring that he would chop Li Shanren to death. If the old ancestor hadn't desperately stopped him, the old lickspittle would have at least lost a layer of skin. The old ancestor sending such a voice transmission indicated that the old senior might be watching in secret. Under these circumstances, Li Shanren naturally couldn't openly use Su Qingyu anymore. This brat isn't completely stupid. However, I really like little Qingyu. She's a million times better than that Luo Qingsheng. You must find a way to marry her. Otherwise, Brother Su will definitely make you experience the pain of having your bones dug out and blood drained again. The old ancestor's voice once again echoed in Li Shanren's mind. Although these words were harsh, Li Shanren was overjoyed. Experience having his bones dug out and blood drained again? Didn't this mean that the old ancestor agreed to return the innate immortal bone and supreme blood to him? If so, things would be much easier. Although the old ancestor was very satisfied with Li Shanren's answer, Chu Hongyun was very anxious. Shanren, what are you saying? Qingyu is such a good child. You can marry her first, can't you? As she spoke, Chu Hongyun frantically winked at Li Shanren, hinting that it didn't matter if he didn't like her. Couldn't he just agree first? The position of imperial son would be gone, and the divine treasure, immortal bone, and supreme blood might also be gone if he didn't agree to marry her now. Li Shanren was speechless after hearing this. However, what made him even more speechless was this. After hearing his words, although a deep sense of loss and sadness flashed in Su Qingyu's eyes, she also started winking at him. Brother Shanren, it's okay if you don't want to marry me. We can get engaged first. Holy hell. Hearing this, Li Shanren naturally understood that Su Qingyu must also be aware that his current situation was not good. She was offering herself up for him to use. It didn't matter if he didn't like her. It didn't matter if he didn't want to marry her. If they got engaged first, she could persuade that old senior Su to put in a good word with the Qianyuan old ancestor to save his position as imperial son. Was it necessary to grovel to this extent? This feeling of being adored, and to be adored by such a beauty. It truly felt amazing. Indeed, it made one feel lightheaded. No wonder Luo Qingsheng became so arrogant as to do such a foolish thing. Li Shanren stared at Su Qingyu and said sternly, "Today is the day of my engagement with Luo Qingsheng, which is very inauspicious. If I were truly to get engaged to you, I would choose an auspicious day." After speaking, without waiting for Chu Hongyun to speak, he glanced at Li Longyuan, then at Li Qingyin and others, and said loudly, "The Chaos Divine Treasure, innate immortal bone, and Chaos Supreme Blood were indeed given away by me, but now I want to reclaim what belongs to me." As he spoke, he swept his gaze over the three young men in the hall, his expression suddenly changing, his eyes as deep and vast as the starry sky, and he continued coldly, "Who opposes?" Knowing the old ancestor's attitude, Li Shanren naturally had no more reservations. Anyone who dared to stop him from reclaiming his belongings would do so at their own risk. Those three young men were precisely three of the many quasi-imperial sons of the Qianyuan imperial dynasty, each possessing remarkable talent. Unfortunately, they were born in the same era as Li Shanren. Previously, under the old ancestor's single word, they were destined to only be quasi-imperial sons, and even if they had grievances, they could only keep them to themselves. But today, upon learning that Li Shanren had done such a foolish thing, these three quasi-imperial sons conceived the idea of vying for the position of imperial son. Of course, if given the opportunity, they naturally wanted to obtain the Chaos Divine Treasure, innate Immortal Bone, and Chaos Supreme Blood. Shanren had been paying attention to everyone's expressions in the hall, and only these three looked at him with very strange expressions. At the same time, in a corner, the old man from the Su family sighed again. Alas, what a sight, what a sight! Su Qingyu, being a young lady, said such things to Li Shanren in public, which was truly improper. He had clearly transmitted a message to Su Qingyu, telling her that Li Shanren would definitely be deposed today and to watch from the sidelines. He told her not to meddle. Let Li Shanren suffer for a while first. At the same time, this old senior from the Su family also firmly told Su Qingyu that he would definitely not intercede for Li Shanren. But unexpectedly, his precious girl knew him too well and insisted on clinging to Li Shanren to be used. However, he had also made up his mind. If Li Shanren dared to try and use Su Qingyu under these circumstances, he would definitely flay the brat alive. Just then, ripples like water waves spread through the void beside the old man from the Su family. From the center of the ripples emerged an old man, dressed in a plain cloth robe, wearing straw sandals, with white hair and beard, a rosy complexion like a baby's, and a dignified presence in his gaze. Why is Brother Su sighing here? Could it be that some short-sighted fool from my Qianyuan imperial dynasty has offended you? Tell me, and I, this old man, will teach him a severe lesson. The white-bearded old man stroked his beard and chuckled. The old man from the Su family glanced at the white-bearded old man and snorted coldly. Old Ghostly, I'm telling you, if that fool dares to make little Qingyu suffer even a little bit again, don't blame me for being impolite. The white-bearded old man looked at Li Shanren not far away and also snorted coldly, saying, This idiot finally did something that pleases me. However, since Brother Su is displeased with him, I definitely won't let him off easily. I'll order Long Yuan to cripple him right away. Stop with that nonsense. Little Qingyu can't bear to see him suffer. I ask you, where did your Qianyuan find such an outstanding Sword Dao Supreme? Chapter 15, Swordmaster. The elderly man from the Su family, not wanting to talk more about Li Shanren, changed the subject and looked at the white-robed figure among the crowd, a hint of admiration flashing in his eyes. The white-bearded elder looked at the white-robed figure with a puzzled expression. Then a look of appreciation appeared in his eyes, and he shook his head, saying, A good seedling, but unfortunately not one of us from Qianyuan. Not from Qianyuan? Could it be that he wasn't sent by you to protect that fool Li Shanren? The white-bearded elder shook his head again. Then, the elderly man from the Su family recounted to the white-bearded elder how the white-robed figure had severed Luo Qingqing's cultivation and had been protecting Li Shanren from beginning to end. Such a thing happened. The white-bearded elder gave Li Shanren a deep, thoughtful look. This brat hides things quite well. He actually managed to subdue such an extraordinary Sword Dao Supreme. A strong look of admiration flashed in the white-bearded elder's eyes. He had lived a long life and held a high position for a long time, so he could naturally tell that the white-robed figure's gaze towards Li Shanren was like that of a servant looking at their master. Extremely attentive and caring, full of genuine loyalty and respect. Such a gaze, the white-bearded elder had only seen in the eyes of his most loyal subordinates. The white-bearded elder was certain that if Li Shanren encountered danger, the white-robed figure would undoubtedly step in front of him without hesitation. If it were someone else, the elder might not have been so surprised. But the white-robed figure was different. With a cultivation of supreme, triple heaven, he constantly exuded an aloof, confident, and transcendent aura, revealing 7 parts of a superior's majesty in his every glance. More importantly, this person was a peerless sword cultivator, his entire being like an unparalleled sharp sword, hidden but ready to be unsheathed at any moment. As the saying goes, silence is golden. No sword is better than a sword. It's nothing more than that. A swordsman, always moving forward. Sword Dao Supreme. Ruthless, aloof, resolute, arrogant. How could such a person easily submit to others, let alone pledge loyal allegiance? Even the white-bearded elder himself, if he didn't set up a restriction on their soul, wouldn't be confident in fully controlling such a sword cultivator. However, Li Shanren was able to command such respect from the white-robed figure, which was enough to show his extraordinary nature. This brat does have some ability. The elderly man from the Su family also showed a hint of admiration in his eyes. He had previously thought that the white-robed figure was a supreme sword cultivator under the white-bearded elder, specifically sent to protect Li Shanren. Now it seemed that was not the case. But when did this kid subdue this sword cultivator? The white-bearded elder couldn't help but voice his confusion. You ask me, who should I ask? The elderly man from the Su family pouted. The two elders' conversation was not quiet. However, the other people in the hall could not hear their words, and no one even noticed their presence. At this moment, Li Shanren was slowly walking towards the medical Tao Supreme, preparing to retrieve his innate Immortal Bone and Chaos Supreme blood. Li Longyuan watched him expressionlessly, not knowing what he was thinking. Chu Hongyun and Su Qingyu, on the other hand, looked anxious, and Li Qingyin and the others, although displeasure flashed in their eyes, did not speak. However, they would not let Li Shanren retrieve the Immortal Bone and Supreme Blood so easily. The guests present were all looking forward to the upcoming developments. I object. Li Shanren, you are unworthy of possessing the innate Immortal Bone and Chaos Supreme Blood. Just as Li Shanren was about to retrieve the Immortal Bone and Supreme Blood, a proud and defiant voice echoed throughout the hall. As a Qianyuan Emperor's son, yet you humbly beg a lowly woman like a loyal dog. You have completely disgraced the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty. That's one thing, but you even presumptuously handed over the Chaos Divine Treasure, innate Immortal Bone, and Chaos Supreme Blood. If Luo Qingsheng were to abscond with the treasures, wouldn't our Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty lose these 3 supreme treasures? Since you don't cherish them, how can you shamelessly want to retrieve them? If you were to fall in love with a woman like Luo Qingsheng again in the future, and once again foolishly hand them over, at that time, who can guarantee that we can retrieve them again? Hearing these extremely arrogant words, Li Shanren's expression remained unchanged. He looked indifferently at the speaker. Li Chongyun, one of the 3 quasi-imperial sons, the son of Prince Yin, Li Qingyin, whose talent was also outstanding among the quasi-imperial sons. When the Qianyuan dynasty chose an imperial son, they valued talent the most, followed by character and methods. If it weren't for Li Shanren, Li Chongyun would definitely have had a chance to become the imperial son. In the past, he always appeared amiable in front of Li Shanren, never showing the slightest dissatisfaction towards him. He even stated that if Li Shanren became the imperial son, he would be the first to be convinced. Now, however, he was the first to jump out and oppose Li Shanren retrieving his own things, kicking him while he was down. Clearly, deep down, he was very unconvinced by Li Shanren. He had simply endured it and kept silent before. Originally, although Li Chongyun was unconvinced by Li Shanren, seeing that even the Qianyuan Emperor had not spoken to stop Li Shanren, he did not want to be a trailblazer. But just now, his father, Li Qingyin, sent him a voice transmission, encouraging him to speak like this, and told him that the old ancestor no longer valued Li Shanren as much as before. This gave him the courage to express his dissatisfaction. Haha, this kid Chongyun's talent is not bad, and he also knows how to endure. What he says now is also reasonable and well-founded, but unfortunately, it will probably be difficult for him to get his wish. The white-bearded elder glanced at the white-robed figure and shook his head. On the other side, Li Shanren gave Li Chongyun a faint glance, then simply ignored him and continued to reach for the innate Immortal Bone and Chaos Supreme Blood. What's the point of just talking? If you have the guts, come up and try to stop me. Seeing Li Shanren ignore him, Li Chongyun then looked at the Qianyuan Emperor and Li Qingyin. Seeing that one was expressionless and the other gestured for him to continue, he immediately shouted angrily, Li Shanren, how can a pearl be covered in dust? You are unworthy of possessing them. After speaking, divine light flowed around his body, and he took a step forward, the Tao rhyme rising and falling beneath his feet, creating ripples of law like water waves. Above his head, 8 dazzling, sparkling multicolored natal divine lotuses suddenly appeared, their colorful radiance illuminating the entire hall, and thousands of auspicious rays burst forth. 8 natal divine lotuses. Li Chongyun was clearly an 8-lotus great saint, and the light from all 8 divine lotuses was as dazzling as lightning, indicating that he had reached the peak of 8 lotus, and only needed one more step to break through to a 9-lotus great saint. How dare you? Su Qingyu and Chu Hongyun knew that with Li Shanren's Immortal Bone extracted and Supreme Blood drawn, he was definitely not Li Chongyun's opponent at this time, so they both shouted simultaneously, preparing to attack. Hongyun, it's easy to give something away, but to get it back, you have to rely on your own ability. Li Longyuan spoke coldly, freezing Chu Hongyun's movements, and Su Qingyu's figure was restrained by Li Qingyin. This is a private matter of our Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty. I hope Miss Su will not meddle. Seeing this scene, Li Chongyun was overjoyed and no longer hesitated. He fully activated his magic power, and the divine lotus light surged like a tide, transforming into a multicolored palm print that rushed towards Li Shanren. Here, Li Shanren didn't even turn his head, his expression indifferent. The next moment, a wisp of sword energy shot out, and the 8 divine lotuses instantly shattered and dissipated. Chapter 16. Sword Master and Loyal Servant. Amidst the crowd, that white figure remained indifferent, her eyes filled with aloofness and arrogance, untainted and transcendent. Inside the hall, Apart from the few supreme powerhouses, everyone else's faces were filled with surprise and doubt, many of them utterly bewildered. They had only witnessed Li Chongyun's divine ability being destroyed by a sword qi, and his, natal divine lotus, shattered by it. At the same time, Li Chongyun himself had almost died under that murderous sword qi. But the sword speed was too fast. Whose was this soul-stirring and incomparably sharp sword qi? If not for the overwhelming and terrifying killing intent contained within this sword qi, and its soul-shaking sword might, no one would have even noticed its existence. However, one thing was clear to everyone. The owner of the sword qi must be a sword king of unparalleled swordsmanship, a sword cultivator supreme. Among the guests present, there were many top-tier sword cultivators from various major forces. When their sword hearts sensed that sword qi, they inexplicably trembled, causing them to involuntarily retreat several steps. What terrifying sword qi! This! All the sword cultivators in the hall collectively gasped. Such sharp and terrifying sword qi. The sword Dao realm has at least reached perfection, and it might even have reached the realm of mastery. More than that, there's a supreme elder in my family whose swordsmanship has long reached mastery, but the sword qi he unleashes is far from possessing such awe-inspiring sword might, capable of making my sword heart tremble. I almost couldn't help but kneel and prostrate myself just now. The elder who unleashed this sword strike has probably reached the legendary transcendent realm of sword heart and sword in one, with formless sword moves. Sword heart and sword in one, formless sword moves? Even that peerless sword Dao genius from the myriad sword divine sect, who possesses a divine sword body, hasn't reached that realm yet. Can there still be a sword cultivator in the Emperor God continent who has elevated their sword Dao to this realm? Many sword cultivators looked around, hoping to find the elder who had just unleashed that sword strike. Emperor Qianyuan's expression was no longer indifferent and unfeeling. A hint of surprise flashed in his eyes as he stared at the white-robed figure. Li Qingyin and the other supreme powerhouses' surprised eyes flashed with anger. They didn't recognize this person, not being from the Qianyuan imperial dynasty, yet daring to attack the Qianyuan quasi-emperor here, and with a killing move at that. Normally, Emperor Qianyuan, Li Longyuan, would have already ordered everyone to kill the white figure. But at this moment, Li Longyuan chose to remain silent. Li Qingyin and the others also did not make a move, because they all knew that just now, their old ancestor had intervened. On the other side, the white-bearded old man and the elder from the Su family were no longer calm. Their eyes also held a hint of surprise. Especially the white-bearded old man. He knew better than anyone how extraordinary that sword qi was. Sword heart and sword in one. Formless sword moves? Far from it. As expected of a peerless sword cultivator, he showed no mercy with his sword. If I hadn't been here, Chongyun would have surely died. Just now, it was the white-bearded old man who secretly intervened to block that sword qi for Li Chongyun. If he hadn't intervened to disperse the sword qi, causing the condensed sword qi to dissipate, those with lower cultivation present might not have even noticed the sword qi's existence. Brother Su, you once clashed with that old fellow from the myriad sword divine sect. In your opinion, how does this young man's sword Dao realm compare to that old fellow's? The white-bearded old man stared at the white-robed figure and asked. The elder from the Su family, without hesitation, uttered 4 words. Sword Dao to the gods. Then, he added, if their cultivation were the same, Jian Qingtian would not be this young man's match. The white-bearded old man's surprise deepened, and he asked doubtfully, few can contend with him at the same realm, and he can even kill enemies across realms. Such a sword Dao genius. Yet he is willing to submit to Shanren? Is he feigning submission, actually having other motives against my Qianyuan? At this moment, when he mentioned Li Shanren, his tone was filled with admiration. Oof. You got a good deal, and you're still complaining? A sword cultivator of this caliber would never feign submission. Otherwise, their sword heart would surely collapse. The Su family elder's gaze towards Li Shanren also changed. Just now, when the white-bearded old man intervened to block the sword qi, both powerful elders heard a voice transmission. The white-robed figure's voice transmission to Li Shanren. Master, someone secretly blocked my sword. This person's strength is far superior to mine. The few supremes present have also discovered my existence. Master, both elders clearly heard these 2 words. A peerless supreme whose sword Dao reached the gods, yet he respectfully addressed Li Shanren with these 2 words. It seemed unreal no matter how they looked at it. But at the same time, it proved one thing. This sword cultivator was indeed loyal and submissive to Li Shanren. A sword cultivator of this caliber possesses an arrogant sword heart. If it wasn't from the bottom of his heart, he would never utter the words master so easily. However, Even if this brat is taken in a decent sword cultivator, we can't just let him retrieve his innate immortal bone and chaos supreme blood like this. After saying this, the white-bearded old man then transmitted a message to Li Shanren. When Li Shanren heard Yi Guqing's voice transmission, he guessed that the old ancestor must have intervened to save Li Chongyun's life. But he didn't care. The old ancestor not making a move against Yi Guqing already indicated his stance. However, just as he was about to retrieve his innate immortal bone and chaos supreme blood, he suddenly heard the old ancestor's voice transmission. Shanren, when I made an exception to confer you as the emperor's son, many people were already dissatisfied, but they didn't dare to say much. But now, you've truly done something too shameful and foolish. If I were to let you retrieve your innate immortal bone and chaos supreme blood again, it would truly be unfair to Chongyun and the others. As the Qianyuan emperor's son, you cannot merely have an empty title. I know you've taken in a rather good sword cultivator, but that's still not enough. If the chaos divine treasure, immortal bone, and supreme blood were placed on Chongyun and the others, their future achievements might not necessarily be worse than yours. Why must they be returned to you? You should know what to do next. Hearing this, Li Shanren thought to himself, this is truly troublesome. This old ancestor probably saw something, otherwise he wouldn't have said this. This meant he had to prove to everyone that he was more qualified than Li Chongyun and the other quasi-emperor's sons to possess the innate immortal bone and chaos supreme blood. The immortal bone and supreme blood would only exert their maximum effect when placed on him. He had to make everyone wholeheartedly convinced. After transmitting to Li Shanren, the old ancestor then transmitted a message to the astonished Li Chongyun. Upon hearing the voice transmission, Li Chongyun immediately cast aside the terrifying sword Qi that had shattered his divine ability, his face revealing an expression of wild joy. At the same time, the other two quasi-emperor sons who were dissatisfied with Li Shanren also received the old ancestor's voice transmission, and their faces all showed delight. Li Shanren, I know that your cultivation has regressed now, and you can only display the strength of the heaven-human realm. I can suppress my realm to the heaven-human realm. Do you dare to fight me at the same realm? Li Chongyun pointed at Li Shanren and said confidently. Li Shanren did not respond. His magical powers surged, and an incomparably vast blood energy erupted from his body, with 9 golden divine lights flashing incessantly. Immediately, purple lightning surged, and battle intent soared to the heavens. Chapter 17, Extreme Vision, Shocking the World. Ding, as per the host's request, releasing the phenomenon of the great accomplishment of the battle god physique. Rumble. Above the firmament, purple divine lightning surged like ancient dragons. Inside the Grand Hall, waves of extreme battle intent erupted like a volcanic explosion, instantly spreading throughout the entire Qianyuan imperial dynasty. Then it swept across the entire northern territory, then the imperial god continent, followed by the 3,000 god continents, and finally rushed out of the Tongtian domain. The unparalleled battle intent startled countless living beings. Exotic beasts bowed their heads, and ferocious birds fell to the ground. Roar, growl, hiss. Powerful sacred beasts and divine beasts, born in ancient, primordial, and even early chaotic times, seemed to be provoked, simultaneously looking towards the Qianyuan imperial dynasty and letting out earth-shattering roars. In the Grand Hall, 9 terrifying golden phantoms emanated a dreadful aura around Li Shanren. Countless Dao runes flashed, and waves of Dao sounds pierced through the 9 heavens and 10 lands, shaking the myriad star systems. Heaven and earth changed color. Boom! Accompanied by colossal roar like a great Dao bell, a golden phantom soared into the sky, heading straight for the 9 heavens. At the same time, a terrifying aura from the primordial chaos era surged forth, accompanied by an even more powerful and overwhelming extreme battle intent. In that instant, all the buildings of the Imperial Sun's mansion turned to dust, and the protective formations collapsed and dissipated. Fortunately, the moment the golden phantom shot up, an incomparably vast power suddenly shot out from the ancestral shrine of the Qianyuan imperial dynasty, protecting all living beings in the Imperial Sun's mansion. Boom! The golden phantom exploded in the sky, divine radiance filled the heavens, and golden light rained down like dazzling fireworks. A golden giant, countless tens of thousands of feet tall and clad in beast skin, stood in the void, his eyes shooting out a disdainful divine light, looking down upon all living beings in the world. Battle heaven Dao, I have reached the extreme, come and fight. Boom! A rampant voice from eternity roared from the second golden phantom, and then this golden phantom also soared into the sky. Heaven and earth trembled, and divine light gushed forth. Another golden giant phantom, clad in ancient vines, stood in the sky, glaring at the golden giant clad in beast skin. Wu Xiaoyun, fight! The third phantom was clad in golden armor. Yin Beiquang, then the fourth, fifth, sixth, and finally the ninth. In this world, only I am invincible. 9 golden giants overlooked myriad realms. 9 waves of extreme battle intent challenged the strongest of all races. Each one more rampant, each one more powerful. Looking closely, the eyes of 8 of the figures held no trace of emotion, completely dead. Only the 9th golden giant's eyes shimmered with spiritual light, like a living being. At this moment, this giant looked down at Shanren, who was enveloped in shimmering golden light, and actually spoke. My name is Nangong Wudi. Young man, tell me your name. The moment these words were uttered, immediately, many Supremes were shocked. That's the location of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty. Did that battle god physique actually reach great accomplishment? Such a phenomenon, a legendary extreme. The Imperial God Continent actually has a battle god physique reaching great accomplishment, an extreme phenomenon. In the direction of the Tongtian domain, a battle god physique with an extreme phenomenon has appeared. Hintion, that child really has bad luck. The next instant, among the top immortal forces that have been passed down for countless epochs, hidden quasi-emperors were startled, and peerless divine physiques trembled, and all the great emperors opened their eyes. A great accomplishment battle god physique is not to be feared, but drawing out an extreme phenomenon is a bit troublesome. Throughout history, only those 9 peerless battle gods exhibited an extreme phenomenon when their divine physique reached great accomplishment. The path of arrogance is not easy. Battle god physique? As one of the 5 peerless divine physiques, my devouring divine physique will not lose to you. The 10th battle god physique to exhibit an extreme phenomenon upon great accomplishment, and this phenomenon is actually the battle soul of Nangong Hen left in the lower realm. No, besides Nangong Hen, there's also Zhan Tiandao Wu Xiaoyan. It's a pity this child doesn't belong to my clan. At the same time, all the immortals in the upper realm turned their gaze. In the azure firmament immortal realm, in an immortal valley shrouded in wondrous clouds and permeated with laws, an elderly man who was fishing looked towards the Shanhai realm. That madman's battle soul left in the lower realm has appeared. Before the great era of contention, indeed, geniuses emerge in droves. Fortunately, the young ones of my Xianyuan clan are not bad either. In the upper realm, only one person was qualified to be called a madman by this old man. The god of war, originally named Nangong Hen, now named Nangong Wudi. This epoch, it must be the children of my Xianyuan family who sit on that position. The elderly man lightly pulled the fishing rod in his hand, and a 7-colored true dragon, hundreds of millions of feet long, was actually fished out of the void. True dragon immortal realm. A man shimmering with golden light snorted softly, also looking at the Shanhai realm. An alien divine physique, you cannot be allowed to live. The moment the words fell, a terrifying power carrying unparalleled dragon might rushed towards the Shanhai realm. In the netherworld purgatory realm, in a boundless dark abyss, purple plasma surged like boiling water, and a figure sat within it, blood-red light shooting from its eyes, carrying a bloodthirsty aura. My son does not fear a mere battle god physique, but since you come from a small, insignificant realm, I will conveniently slay you. That position belongs only to my son. A mass of black, law mist burst forth, heading straight for the Shanhai realm. At the same time, many other terrifying existences unleashed immense immortal arts and divine abilities, carrying boundless killing intent, rushing towards the Shanhai realm. In the celestial realm, Datong Immortal Court, inside the Immortal Palace, a man dressed in a golden 9-dragon robe snorted coldly. You dare to touch my Li family descendants? Nangong Hen, your position as god of war is destined to be replaced by a Li family member. As soon as these words fell, those immortal arts and divine abilities filled with intense killing intent were neutralized one by one. The 9 extreme battle gods appear together, the Li family's descendants in the lower realm. A bunch of fools, if they didn't have a mortal bloodline. How could they trigger an extreme phenomenon? Offending that madman of the Li family, they'll have it coming. To kill an extreme battle god physique and antagonize the Great Tang is not worth it. However, the phenomenon is actually the battle soul phantom of the first battle god of all time. If he comes to the upper realm someday, he will be another Nangong Hen. If this child is fortunate enough to fight Nangong Hen in the end, regardless of victory or defeat, humanity will gain another powerful fighting force. Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, where the Imperial Sun's mansion is located. Shanren's battle god physique has actually reached great accomplishment, and it's accompanied by an extreme phenomenon rarely seen throughout history. Even with the temperament of the white-robed elder and the elder from the Sioux family, they now wore solemn expressions, their eyes flashing with deep shock. While it wasn't easy to achieve great accomplishment in the battle god physique with Li Shanren's talent, it wasn't impossible as long as he dedicated enough time and effort. When the divine physique reached great accomplishment, it would naturally be accompanied by a phenomenon. But if the divine physique reached great accomplishment with an extreme phenomenon, then they couldn't remain calm. Since the birth of living beings, through countless epochs, there have been many peerless geniuses with the battle god physique. However, there have only been precisely 9 battle god physiques that exhibited an extreme phenomenon upon great accomplishment. A great accomplishment battle god physique could physically contend with a great emperor, and a battle god physique that had exhibited an extreme phenomenon could physically fight and kill a great emperor and not die, also known as the undying physique. The 2 words undying are enough to illustrate its power. Chapter 18. In front of the cheat, I am unwilling to accept it. Ding. The host's perfected battle god physique caused an overly exaggerated phenomenon that startled all realms, leading many terrifyingly powerful individuals to target the host and prepare to kill them. Please be careful, host. Careful my ass. Li Shanren was dumbfounded. He had originally intended to display the phenomenon of his perfected battle god physique, show off a little, gain the recognition of his ancestors, and simultaneously make those quasi-emperor heirs submit. He hadn't expected this to be such a huge mistake. Now, hearing the system's voice, Li Shanren immediately felt he shouldn't have shown off. Thankfully, when the system asked if he wanted to display the phenomenon of the Chaos Dao embryo as well, he thought it best to take things one step at a time, first releasing one phenomenon to shock everyone, then the next. What close call. Although the Chaos Dao embryo wasn't perfected, it was the legendary number 1 Dao embryo, and the phenomenon it produced would certainly be impressive. Just one battle god physique phenomenon had people preparing to kill him. If he added a Dao embryo phenomenon, he would surely be dead. However, in this Emperor God continent, who would dare to kill him? Did they want to trigger a bloody war between immortal powers? Since they were preparing to kill him, it meant they would rather start a war than let him live. There was also another possibility. The other party might not be a power from the Emperor God continent, but rather from an even stronger power, unafraid of retaliation from the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, the Emperor God continent's number 1 immortal power. According to his memories, Li Shanren recalled that while a perfected battle god physique was rare, it shouldn't cause such an exaggerated phenomenon. Since it provoked murderous intent, it meant that the perfected battle god physique the system gave him was a little different. No wonder the system had proactively helped him conceal the phenomenon of the perfected battle god physique earlier. Having too strong a cheat isn't safe. Also, this golden giant staring at him now looks very strong. The way it's looking at him seems very unfriendly. Li Shanren was panicking now. He swore he would never show off again. At least, he would never show off until he possessed absolute power. Now the question was, what to do? Pray that the ancestors of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty could protect him? Ding. The host crisis has been resolved. No need to be careful. Ding. Detecting the origins of those who intended to harm the host. True Dragon Immortal Realm. Candle Dragon Clan, Zhulong Jiuyin. Netherworld Futu Realm. Nether Blood Clan, Netherworld Emperor. Fiend Realm, Chaos Fiend Clan, Tao Wuji. 9 Demon Realm. Please remember them, host. It's okay if you can't remember. The system will remind you later. Ding. New mission incoming. Mission objective, seek revenge. Kill Zhulong Jiuyin, Netherworld Emperor. Mission briefing. Villains always seek revenge. The host is destined to become an ancestral villain, even more meticulous. For every grievance, repay tenfold. Any petty individuals who dare harbor murderous intent towards the host must pay a cruel price. Mission reward. Obtain the title Great Villain. Note, please retrieve the Chaos Divine Treasure, Innate Immortal Bone, and Chaos Supreme Blood as soon as possible, and fiercely chop down Luo Qincheng to complete the previous mission. Damn it, system bro, I suspect you're messing with me. However, I definitely don't want to experience this kind of emotional roller coaster a second time. With the system's assurance, Li Shanren instantly calmed down. At the same time, a murderous glint flashed in his eyes. Zhulong Jiuyin from the True Dragon Immortal Realm, the Netherworld Emperor. However, these beasts are clearly not ordinary minor characters. System, your reward is only a great villain title. Are you sure you're not playing with me? Ding. Detecting the identity of the person who helped the host resolve the crisis. The 9th generation's strongest battle god physique, Nangong Hen, now renamed Nangong Wudi. Heavenly Realm, Great Tang Immortal Court, Li Daoyuan. Detected to be the ancestor of this physical body of the host. Currently, the host's second patron. Who is the first patron? Of course, it's this system. with the system in hand, who can harm the host in the slightest. So the true ancestor was someone else. This one from the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty was probably just a minor ancestor. But Nangong Wudi? Isn't that the name of this imposing golden giant in front of him? And he even helped him resolve some danger? After exchanging words with the system for a while, Li Shanren finally remembered that Nangong Wudi had asked him a question earlier. At this moment, the ninth golden giant spoke again. My name is Nangong Wudi. Young man, state your name. Li Shanren solemnly looked up, meeting the giant, dazzling eyes, and firmly said, Li Shanren, Li Shanren. The golden giant repeated these 3 words, then burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. Li Shanren, I, Nangong Wudi, look forward to your growth. In one era, there can only be one ultimate extreme battle god physique. The great era has arrived. I hope you quickly reach that realm in the lower realm and come to the upper realm to fight me. At that time, you and I will not only determine superiority, but also life and death. Before that, I will not let those scoundrels in the upper realm harm a single hair on your head. However, if beings from the lower realm attack you, I will not interfere. If you die in the lower realm, it only means you are useless and unworthy of the extreme battle god physique. Boom! As soon as the words fell, the 9 golden giants simultaneously cast a deep glance at Li Shanren before exploding into countless specks of light, dissipating from the world. The intense fighting intent receded at the same time. Oof. Even without you, Nangong Wudi, who dares to harm my Li family descendants? At this moment, an incomparably majestic voice came from above the 9 heavens, shaking heaven and earth. This is my Li family's ancestor in the upper realm. At this moment, the white-bearded old man and the old senior from the Su family stood respectfully behind a young man in a green dragon golden robe, like timid children. The young man's face was veiled by a layer of white mist, hazy and indistinct, making his features unclear. Tao charm flowed around his body. The laws of the great Tao ceaselessly revolved, and the profound truths of heaven and earth flickered within. When the extreme phenomenon appeared, this young man had rushed from the ancestral shrine of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty and manifested here. With this ancestor's words, who dares to touch my Li family's emperor Tao seed in this realm? The position of emperor in this era belongs solely to my Li family. The young man spoke coldly, brimming with confident arrogance. This era, the prodigies of this realm, are destined to be Shanren's stepping stones. The white-bearded old man respectfully added. Beside him, the old senior from the Su family glanced at Su Qingyu, whose eyes were filled with determination, and thought, that might not be the case. Brother Shanren, congratulations, but I won't fall behind either. Su Qingyu clenched her fists, silently vowing in her heart. On the other side, Li Chongyin had recovered from his shock. A perfected battle god physique. Could he contend against it in the same realm? But if he retreated now, his Tao heart would surely be damaged. Li Shanren saw the apprehension in his eyes and said indifferently, Scared? It's all right. You. And you too. Weren't you unconvinced by me? Now I'm giving you a chance. Come at me together. As he spoke, he pointed at Li Chongyin and the other 2 quasi-emperor heirs. If you can defeat me, the position of emperor heir, the divine treasure, immortal bone, and supreme blood will be yours. Also, you don't need to suppress your cultivation. If you have the guts, come. I'll count to 3. Miss this chance and it's gone. 3. The 3 rejoiced upon hearing this and immediately activated their magic power to attack. But as the 3 rushed closer, Li Shanren calmly turned away, ignoring their divine abilities. Whoosh! Another formidable sword chi shot out, striking towards the 3. 3 idiots. After the ancestor saw that incredibly awesome phenomenon, do I still need to duel you 3 individually? Unconvinced? In the face of a cheat-like talent, if you're unconvinced, just suck it up. Chapter 19. Cheats are unreasonable. The guests with lower cultivation levels were already stunned. What just happened? They had thought Li Shanren would fight Li Chongyin on equal terms to contend for the position of Emperor's son and the ownership of the divine treasure, Immortal Bone, and Supreme Blood. Unexpectedly, Li Shanren suddenly achieved great accomplishment in his divine physique. How old was Li Shanren to have refined the battle god physique to great accomplishment? And that terrifying, heaven-shaking battle intent in his phenomenon was truly rare in history. Even more exaggerated was that Li Shanren now declared he would fight 3 opponents. With the strength of the heaven-human realm, he would leap 2 major realms, which were the vastly different Saint Realm and Great Saint Realm, to battle 3 quasi-emperor's sons. Even if the great accomplishment battle god physique made his physical body invincible, enough to suppress peerless prodigies of the same realm, in a situation where the realm difference was so vast and still fighting 1 against 3, Even if his physical body could withstand it, his divine soul and source of power would inevitably be suppressed by the pressure of the great Saint Divine Lotuses, making it difficult to unleash his magic power and certainly unable to use divine abilities. This would lead to the suppression of the divine physique's offensive power, leaving him only able to passively take hits. He would absolutely not be able to counterattack resolutely. He might even suffer damage to his divine soul, leaving him with hidden soul ailments. However, just as everyone thought Shanren would be passively beaten, they witnessed an unbelievable scene. The divine abilities of the three Quasi-Emperor's sons simultaneously blasted out. The void seemed to be twisted. The divine lotus's light illuminated this heaven and earth, and the pressure surged towards Shanren like a tidal wave. Such power caused many cultivators present, whose cultivation was below the great saint realm, to retreat several steps, feeling suffocated and having an urge to spit blood. But just as the three unparalleled divine abilities approached Shanren, he calmly turned his back to them. At the same moment, a sword chi that made many sword cultivators present feel a chilling dread broke through the air. Swoosh! Li Chongyun and the other two Quasi-Emperor's sons who attacked Shanren didn't even have time to scream. Their divine abilities, their innate divine lotuses, their physical bodies, and their divine souls. Under this single sword strike, they vanished like smoke and clouds, completely annihilated from the world. One sword, annihilating three great saint realm Quasi-Emperor's sons who had condensed 8 divine lotuses. That peerless Sword Tao Supreme, who wielded the sword with unmatched skill, had struck again. Holy crap, what's going on? What about the promised 1 against 3? The guests present were once again dumbfounded. At this moment, even a fool would know that the hidden senior sword cultivator was protecting Shanren. A promising seed for the Sword Tao, the young man in dragon robes said lightly from the corner. Hearing this, the white-bearded old man was startled. To receive such praise from this ancestor meant that the Sword Tao talent of that white-robed figure was even stronger than he had imagined. For such a sword cultivator to willingly submit to Shanren was truly a blessing for the Qianyuan dynasty. However, to put it another way, when Shanren's divine physique reached great accomplishment, it triggered an extreme phenomenon, destined to suppress an era, sweep across this world, reach the pinnacle, and even traverse the starry sky and myriad realms in the future. Just like Nangong Wudi, invincible in battle, forging a formidable reputation, shaking the universe, and dominating the 9 heavens and 10 lands. This sword cultivator might have seen this in Shanren, and thus chose to follow him, in order to reach the pinnacle of Sword Tao in the future. Thinking of this, the white-bearded old man glanced at the spot where Li Chongyun and the other two had died, his eyes devoid of any emotion or pity, secretly cursing them as 3 idiots. Since Shanren's divine physique had achieved great accomplishment and even triggered an extreme phenomenon, and even the ancestors from the upper realm had spoken to protect him. This already indicated that the position of Emperor's son, the Chaos Divine Treasure, the innate Immortal Bone, and the Chaos Supreme Blood all belonged to Shanren. Shanren's status in the Qianyuan dynasty was now incomparable, noble, and transcendent. To still dare to contend at such a time, what was it if not courting death? Even if that white-robed sword cultivator hadn't acted, the white-bearded old man would have personally killed those 3 idiots. Fufeng, from today onwards, all cultivation resources of our Qianyuan dynasty are at Shanren's disposal. Qianyuan will revere him, and all power over life and death will also be under his control. However, don't tell him directly. Maintain the status quo, and you act secretly, lest he become arrogant and affect his Tao heart. The young man in dragon robe spoke again, his voice ethereal, each word like the sound of the great Tao, deeply imprinted in the ears of the white-bearded old man, Li Fufeng. After speaking, the young man transformed into a golden stream of light and directly entered the Qianyuan ancestral temple. Yes, Ancestor Fuyun, Li Fufeng respectfully replied. Ancestor Fuyun's words undoubtedly made it clear. Let alone Li Shanren killing 3 Quasi-Emperor's sons, even if he killed Emperor Li Longyuan. It wouldn't matter. Thinking of this, Li Fufeng glanced at Li Qingyin and the other supremes who were in shock and anger. They had previously threatened to abolish Li Shanren, and now they had to pay a price. Even if their previous thoughts were not wrong, and Li Shanren had indeed done something foolish. But now, even the ancestors from the upper realm valued Li Shanren, and Ancestor Fuyun had also spoken. In the face of absolute talent, there was no logic to be found. Immediately, Li Shanren and Li Qingyin and the other supremes all heard Li Fufeng's voice transmission. The former smiled with satisfaction. The latter's face turned ashen, and they dared not harbor any resentment. Whoosh! Exhaling softly, Li Shanren finally integrated the innate Immortal Bone and Chaos Supreme Blood into his body. Suddenly, Li Shanren's aura dramatically changed. Surging magic power vibrated out like a tidal wave, and a powerful pressure soared into the sky. His bones and blood returned, his realm recovered, and 9 dazzling divine lotuses shone brightly, floating and sinking above his head, emitting immense and terrifying magic power fluctuations. Tao rhythm flowed around him. Countless runes shimmered. The ultimate truths of heaven and earth sparkled within, and faintly, profound Tao method spontaneously arose. The battle god physique is now in great accomplishment, an invincible physical body. The innate immortal bone, brimming with immortal intent, possesses extraordinary comprehension, allowing one to easily grasp any profound mystery. The supreme chaos blood, containing the energy of primordial chaos, with infinite Tao rhythm and spontaneous profound methods. If it can connect with the divine soul to form chaos divine soul blood, and the accompanying chaos divine treasure. This, everyone couldn't help but collectively gasp, amazed by everything Li Shanren now possessed. Thankfully he doesn't have a Tao fetus. His magic power is limited, and the power of his divine abilities also has a limit. Otherwise, the prodigies and supremes of his generation would surely cry themselves to death. Who would dare to compete with him? Even without a Tao fetus, it's enough to suppress the 9 heavens above, crush the 10 lands below, and reign supreme for an era. No Tao fetus? Chaos Tao fetus. Upon great accomplishment, cultivation methods are self-understood, divine abilities are self-generated, and magic power is boundless. Hearing the discussions around him, Li Shanren smiled without a word, raising the treasure in his hand, which looked like a butcher's knife, and slowly walked towards Luo Qingqing. It was time to complete the task. However, at this moment, the unconscious Luo Qingqing suddenly woke up and habitually shrieked. Li Shanren, how dare you hit me? I will never get engaged to you. Never. If you don't kneel down and kowtow to apologize to me, you'll never see me again, let alone make me like you. However, when her eyes met Li Shanren's exceptionally cold gaze, Luo Qingqing suddenly realized, and her voice abruptly stopped. The current Li Shanren was no longer the humble loyal dog he once was. Chapter 20. The one who is wrong is always the dog. Upon hearing Luo Qingqing's words, many people couldn't help but show admiration in their eyes. This woman is amazing. In this situation, she still thought Emperor Yuanzi was interested in her. Many men glanced at Luo Qingqing's chest. Indeed, the bigger the chest, the more brainless. Luo Tongtian was filled with immense regret. He shouldn't have been so swept away, allowing his daughter to be so arrogant, even letting her humiliate Li Shanren. If he had firmly advised Luo Qingqing back then at this moment, he might have had an incredibly talented son-in-law. Wait, Luo Tongtian's expression changed, and he suddenly thought of something. Li Shanren once loved his daughter deeply. The reason he gave up on her was because she made too many excessive demands. As long as his daughter corrected her mistakes, sincerely apologized, and showed a hint of affection towards Li Shanren, then perhaps Li Shanren would fall in love with her again. No, there was no perhaps. One must know that in the past, to win his daughter's smile, Li Shanren was willing to pay any price. As long as his daughter was willing to humble herself, how could Li Shanren not change his mind? Thinking this, Luo Tongtian hurriedly said to Luo Qingqing, Qingqing, you were too much before. How could you dig out Shanren's immortal bone and extract his supreme blood? You also shouldn't have made him swear allegiance to you as his master, and said that he wasn't allowed to touch your body. That was truly wrong. After you marry him, you will naturally share a bed with him. Also, I must warn you, after marrying Shanren, you are not allowed to seek out other men. Hurry and apologize to Shanren, then promise that you will be a good wife in the future. In Luo Tongtian's view, Li Shanren's change of heart was precisely because Luo Qingqing forbade him from touching her and said she would seek out other men in the future. As long as his daughter was willing to sleep with him, wouldn't Li Shanren obediently change his mind? Perhaps Li Shanren's sudden change in attitude was to force his daughter to admit her mistakes. Moreover, even if Li Shanren refused to change his mind and marry his daughter, he would at least spare their lives for the sake of their past relationship, right? No matter what, Luo Tongtian did not want to die. Hearing Luo Tongtian's words, Su Qingyu bit her lip tightly, feeling a little uneasy. To be honest, Li Shanren used to be so infatuated with Luo Qingqing that she worried he might still not be over her. Shanren, don't be foolish again. Chu Hunyuan also felt a little worried. What if Li Shanren really forgave her after Luo Qingqing apologized? Other guests also began to feel suspicious. Yes, Li Shanren's change of heart was precisely because Luo Qingqing had gone too far. If she apologized now and promised not to seek out other men in the future, dedicating herself solely to Li Shanren. Then, Li Shanren might indeed change his mind and continue their engagement. Just as Li Shanren himself had done a shameful and foolish thing before. But after admitting his mistake, he had now recovered his innate immortal bone and chaos supreme blood. Hadn't he? Li Shanren had done so much for Luo Qingsheng in the past. Giving up on her like this would be a bit of a pity. Everyone's gaze turned to Luo Qingsheng, wanting to know if this arrogant woman would sincerely admit her mistake and win back Li Shanren. Upon hearing her father's words, Luo Qingsheng immediately knew that the matters of the divine treasure, immortal bone, and supreme blood, as well as her making Li Shanren swear to be her slave, surrender his soul, and not touch her body, had been exposed. And from the intense pain emanating from her body, it seemed her immortal bone and supreme blood had also been taken away. Looking at Li Shanren, who was slowly approaching with an utterly cold expression, it seemed he had really changed his mind. Luo Qingsheng was somewhat incredulous. It was like there was once a person who unconditionally and selflessly gave you various magic treasures, elixirs, and exotic beasts every day. You had grown accustomed to it, treating it as a normal part of life. But suddenly, one day, he stopped giving and even dared to demand things from you. This contrast was truly difficult to accept all at once. How could Li Shanren change? Why didn't he continue to maintain his loyal dog-like attitude? Was it just because she made some demands? Ridiculous. He wanted to marry her, but didn't want to pay the price. Was there such a good thing in the world? Now he even dared to ask her to apologize? He dared to hit her. Li Shanren was the one who should apologize. In the past, Luo Qingsheng often deliberately found fault. Then, like watching a monkey, she would condescendingly watch Li Shanren fawn over her in various ways and humbly apologize. Now, she was supposed to apologize to a monkey? A surge of anger rose in Luo Qingsheng's heart, and she shouted, "I didn't do anything wrong. He did everything willingly. Since he doesn't want to accept my demands, fine. I don't want to marry such a petty man either." Now that the innate immortal bone and chaos supreme blood have been taken back by him, he hasn't suffered any loss. But my cultivation has been crippled, and he slapped me in front of so many people. I'm clearly the one who's hurt. Why should I apologize? Why? She looked directly at Li Shanren, who was slowly approaching, and said word by word, "For me to apologize to someone like you? I'm POSSI. Because of habits formed over a long time, Luo Qingsheng believed that all the fault lay with Li Shanren. She was the victim. Even if she died, she wouldn't apologize. "Qingsheng, what nonsense are you saying? Hurry up and apologize, beg Shanren to spare us." Luo Tongtian was burning with anxiety, cursing his daughter for being an idiot. Li Shanren had already reached Luo Qingsheng, and with a swift motion, his knife fell. Swish! Crack! A slash landed on Luo Qingsheng's beautiful face. As the slash fell, Luo Tongtian's voice abruptly stopped. Drip! It was utterly silent, with only the sound of blood dripping to the ground. Swish! Another slash, and 2 striking knife marks appeared on Luo Qingsheng's face. 3 slashes, 4 slashes, 5 slashes. Swish, swish, swish. Soon, Luo Qingsheng's face was a bloody mess, like a piece of rotting flesh. Li Shanren did not use too much force, nor did he use his magic power. Since he wanted to hack wildly, he naturally couldn't finish her with one strike. Out of curiosity, Li Shanren had deliberately slowed his pace earlier, wanting to see what Luo Qingsheng would do. Unexpectedly, Luo Qingsheng was still so self-righteous and indignant. A woman who had been praised to the heavens would never admit her mistakes. She would never look for reasons within herself. Having always been pampered and held in high esteem, she naturally believed that everything was someone else's fault. Damn, it was too outrageous. Li Shanren condensed a mystic light mirror with his magic power. He showed Luo Qingsheng what she looked like now. No woman doesn't love beauty, especially a woman whose beauty was often praised by others. She cared even more about her appearance. Seeing her face disfigured with her own eyes, Luo Qingsheng let out a piercing scream. Afterward, Li Shanren had people find several skilled individuals proficient in torture and interrogation. Luo Qingsheng forbade the old simp from touching her and threatened to find other men. Such a disloyal and unchaste woman. Just killing her like this, it wouldn't quell the old simp's towering resentment. It required shrimp killing and pig heart, a Chinese idiom meaning to be extremely cruel and vicious, or to hit someone where it hurts most. Chapter 21 Heartbreaking, Crazy Slashing. Please, please kill me. I was wrong, truly wrong. After being tormented to the core by a group of people skilled in torture and interrogation, Luo Qingsheng yearned for death, whimpering her confession. Everyone was incredibly shocked. The women present looked away, not daring to witness Luo Qingsheng's tragic state. In just a short while, this arrogant and conceited woman had gone from initial haughtiness and defiance to screaming, cursing, begging for death, and now pleading and apologizing. At this moment, a thought was deeply etched in many people's minds. When Li Shanren loved you, he might go to great lengths to please you. But when he stopped loving you, or rather, when you provoked him, your end would surely be tragic. Luo Qingsheng was a bloody example. Such a delicate beauty, she was cruelly tormented to the core in front of so many guests. The scene was truly spectacular, and he wouldn't let her die. He wouldn't let her close her eyes. He made her watch herself being brutally tormented in various ways through the Xianlight mirror. Killing someone is merely a nod of the head. Li Shanren was tormenting her soul, using all those methods reserved for evil women. He was painstakingly grinding away Luo Qingsheng's self-esteem. Moreover, from beginning to end, Li Shanren's expression remained calm, devoid of any emotion or pity, as if he had done a trivial little thing. Some people felt that Li Shanren was going too far in treating a woman like this, but they dared not speak out. Others felt it was a pity that such a great beauty like Luo Qingsheng was being tormented in such a way, a waste, but more people felt a sense of satisfaction. Chu Hongyun, for instance, was very pleased with Li Shanren's actions. Su Qingyu also felt no cruelty, only a hint of exhilaration. The moment Luo Qingsheng pleaded and confessed, Li Shanren suddenly felt a lingering trace of resentment deep within his soul vanish like smoke, as if he had been liberated. The old simp's resentment had disappeared. He could finally rest in peace. Immediately after, Li Shanren raised his saber and furiously hacked at Luo Qingsheng in front of everyone. Swish, 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 crack. Ding. Congratulations on completing the mission. Mission objective: reclaim the innate Immortal Bone and Chaos Supreme Blood. Hack Luo Qingsheng and eliminate the simp's resentment. Mission briefing. The simp died with lingering resentment. The host occupied the simp's body. If the resentment is not eliminated, the simp's resentment will affect the host. Resentment has been removed. Mission reward: randomly summon a villain. Gain 1 million upgrade experience points. Mission result: perfect completion, SSS. Ding. Mission rewards have been issued. Ding. Congratulations to the host for gaining an opportunity to randomly summon a villain. Ding. Congratulations to the host for gaining 1 million upgrade experience points. Note: the host can use upgrade experience points to improve their realm, divine body, Dao embryo, cultivation techniques, divine abilities, etc. Even if it doesn't belong to the host, as long as the host is willing and there are enough upgrade experience points, its level can be increased, such as improving the level of elixirs, magical artifacts, etc. Just as he finished hacking the green tea bitch, the system's voice echoed in Li Shanren's mind. As you all can see, today's engagement has been cancelled. I apologize for the inadequate hospitality. Soon, guests from other major powers left one by one. Su Qingyu also reluctantly bid farewell to Li Shanren and returned to the immortal family Su with the old elder from the Su family. After witnessing the phenomenon of Li Shanren's battle god body achieving great success, she felt immense pressure. She needed to cultivate even harder, improve her cultivation and strength, and strive to make herself worthy of Li Shanren. Shanren, your imperial son's residence was destroyed by the extreme phenomenon. From now on, you will cultivate here. Li Shanren and Yi Guqing followed Li Longyuan into a magnificent and resplendent grand hall. Here, auspicious qi lingered, colorful light shone, vital essence was abundant, and spiritual energy was extremely dense, almost condensing into liquid. From today onwards, you can freely use Qin Yuan's cultivation resources. After conveying the ancestor's message, Li Longyuan's face unusually showed a smile. Good boy, you've been hiding it well. You cultivated the battle god body to great success, and you didn't even tell your father? Hiding my ass, it was all thanks to the system. Li Shanren inwardly complained, then said, Dad, life is boring, lacking surprises. When I gave Luo Qingsheng the divine treasure, Immortal Bone, and Supreme Blood, you must have been surprised. After seeing the phenomenon of my divine body achieving great success, needless to say, you must be overjoyed. Li Longyuan snorted, his smile fading. If you dare to give things away carelessly again, I will not forgive you. Now that your divine body has achieved great success, you must cultivate even harder. Don't disgrace the extreme battle god body. Effort, the system is still better. After Li Longyuan left, Li Shanren immediately opened his attribute panel. Host, Li Shanren. Identity, Imperial Son of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty. Cultivation/level, 9 Lotus Great Saint /level 38. Upgrade experience, 999999999 /000. Divine abilities /cultivation techniques. Emperor's world-shattering fist, Saint tier top grade, upgradable 0/1 million. Emperor's profound heaven art, Saint tier top grade, upgradable 0/1000000. Physique in bloodline. Battle god body, great success, not upgradable. Chaos Dao embryo, initial Dao embryo, upgradable 0/1000000. Innate immortal bone, low tier immortal bone, upgradable 0/1000000. Chaos supreme blood, primary, not connected to divine soul, upgradable 0/1000000. Magical artifacts, world purifying azure leaf lotus, sealed state, unlockable 0/1000000. Current upgrade experience points, 1000000. Random villain summon chances, 1. Number of subordinate villains, 1. Yeet Guqing. System shop, not yet open. Looking at the attribute panel, Shanren hesitated on how to use the upgrade experience points obtained from a mission. Originally, he had planned to use them to upgrade the Emperor's profound heaven art, a saint tier cultivation technique, to god tier. After all, currently, no immortal power in the entire Imperial Divine Continent possessed a complete god-tier cultivation technique. However, at this moment, seeing that upgrading the Chaos Supreme Blood also required 1 million experience points. He had the extreme battle god body, making his physical body invincible, but his divine soul was relatively much weaker. For example, when he faced the divine abilities of Li Chongyun and the other two previously, although he kept a straight face, he could actually feel that his divine soul was not doing well under the pressure of their innate divine lotuses. At that time, Shanren decided that he must strengthen his divine soul well to achieve invincibility in both body and soul. Shanren. Just as Shanren was hesitating whether to upgrade his cultivation technique or the supreme chaos blood, an old man with white hair and beard suddenly appeared before him. Old Ancestor. Although Shanren had never seen the old man, he recognized his voice. It was indeed the old ancestor, Li Fufeng. I can't bear the title of old ancestor. Just call me Grandpa Feng. I'm here this time to bring you good things on behalf of the old ancestor. As he spoke, four beams of white light flashed out. Four jade-like stones appeared before Shanren. The stones exuded immortal aura, and their entire bodies were engraved with incredibly complex and profound runes. With just a glance, Shanren felt his mind tremble, and a magical power within his body surged uncontrollably. 9 dragon purple Shao art. Touching the leftmost stone, 5 booming dragon-like Dao sounds resonated in Shanren's mind. Chapter 22. 2 immortal techniques, 2 magical powers, physical body and soul, internal and external cultivation. As the 5 dragon roars echoed, 9 golden dragons, seemingly corporeal, with shimmering scales and a dragon's might that shook the heavens, instantly appeared around Shanren. Roar. 9 dragons appeared simultaneously. After the 9 dragon roars, space surged in the easternmost part of the mountain and sea realm, and a purple light suddenly appeared. As if summoned, countless streams of purple chi gushed out from the space like a tide, filling the heavens and earth. Swish, swish, swish. The sky-obscuring purple chi surged wildly, rushing rapidly towards the direction of the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty. Wherever the purple chi passed, the vital essence of countless living beings was largely absorbed. Rich and abundant spiritual energy also surged into the purple chi. At the same time, countless powerful figures above the supreme realm exclaimed in shock. Purple chi coming from the east, devouring vital essence, spiritual energy surging along. This is who is cultivating an immortal art from the upper realm. An immortal art descending to the lower realm, from which force in the upper realm? An immortal art? As long as Qianyu cultivates his 5 elements divine body to great accomplishment, our sex ancestor will surely bestow an supreme immortal art. That direction, indeed, it's because of that greatly accomplished extreme battle divine body. The purple chi came from the east for billions of miles, stretching across the horizon, carrying surging vital essence and spiritual energy, and poured into the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, where it was completely devoured by the 9 golden dragons around the Shanren. Immediately, rays of light shimmered and auspicious energy flowed. The 9 dragons soared into the sky, circled the firmament 9 times, then plunged down, rushing into Shanren's body. 9 dragons, purple heaven art. 9 dragons suppress the universe. Purple heaven devours heaven and earth. Profound cultivation techniques, like a torrent, flooded into Shanren's mind. The primordial chaos opens. The void is chaotic. 9 dragons contend. Purple heaven illuminates the world. drawing spiritual energy into the source to transform into dragon power. The power of 9 dragons covers heaven and earth, absorbing vital essence into the body to refine purple clouds. The purple heaven chi condenses into a dragon body. When cultivated to perfection, one condenses the body of a true dragon. One inhale, 1 dragon. One exhale, 9 dragons. With each breath, 9 dragons shake all realms. Purple heaven devours all races. The 9 dragons' purple heaven art allows one to unleash the power of 9 dragons with a single breath, capable of shattering all things. With purple heaven chi entwined around the body like a dragon, it can defend against all magic. Grandpa Feng, what grade is this cultivation technique? Shanren couldn't help but ask. These 4 Dao sealing stones were specially sent to you by that ancestor from the upper realm, using a secret bloodline spatial art. They seal 4 immortal arts and divine abilities. Li Fufeng said, his gaze sweeping over the 4 Dao sealing stones in front of Shanren. Finally, his gaze landed on the Dao sealing stone that Shanren was currently touching. This Dao sealing stone contains a supreme, body-refining immortal art. No one in this realm can withstand its power. Only you, with your greatly accomplished extreme battle divine body, can cultivate it. Li Fufeng said with a hint of envy. Ancestor from the upper realm? Isn't that the second powerful backer? Supreme body-refining, immortal art. Shanren possessed the greatly accomplished battle god body, but he lacked a matching body-refining cultivation technique, preventing him from fully unleashing the unparalleled combat power of his divine body. Now, having obtained the upper realm body-refining immortal art, the 9 dragons' purple heaven art, which offers both offense and defense. Once cultivated to perfection and fully comprehended, it would be like divine assistance, breaking through all defenses and all magic. Now that you've just obtained an immortal art from the upper realm, do not be distracted. Focus on comprehending and cultivating it to lay a solid foundation. Seeing Shanren's excited expression, Li Fufeng immediately spoke to remind him. Shanren quickly calmed his mind, held his focus, and began to comprehend and cultivate. After mastering the 9 dragons' purple heaven art, he could unleash a dragon shadow with a punch, its dragon might shaking the enemy. As his cultivation deepened, the dragon's shadow gradually solidified, manifesting the power of a single dragon, its dragon might capable of defeating enemies. The power of 1 dragon shadow was comparable to 1,000 zhong stone mountain, while the power of 1 dragon was like a 10,000 zhong iron mountain. And the power of 9 dragons of perfection was comparable to 9 great realms. In other words, when Shanren unleashes a dragon shadow in the future, it will be equivalent to smashing out 100 zhong stone mountain. When he unleashes the power of 9 dragons, it will be like throwing out 9 great realms similar to the mountain and sea realm, annihilating billions of living beings in an instant. At this moment, Shanren sensed that the spiritual energy in his body had transformed into a thumb-sized golden dragon shadow, while his vital essence gradually turned purple, covering his body surface. Roar! With the assistance and enhancement of the surging red chi and blood of his battle god body, Shanren quickly comprehended the power of a single dragon shadow, and a dragon's roar resounded. The extreme battle god body could be said to be the most suitable physique for cultivating body-refining immortal arts, so it was natural for him to quickly master the 9 dragons' purple heaven art. Too much is as bad as too little. After mastering the basics, my spiritual energy and vital essence are depleted. I must recover before I can cultivate again. Moreover, my foundation is currently unstable. I need to consolidate it through actual combat before it's suitable to continue cultivating. Shanren muttered to himself. However, at this moment, the magic power within his body surged wildly again, converging on the true form of his natal divine lotus in his dantian. I'm about to break through. His realm, at this moment, was breaking through once more. Saint King realm. Boom! The surging red chi and blood erupted like a volcanic eruption, with an overwhelming battle intent that shook heaven and earth. The 9 natal divine lotuses above his head shone brightly, and with a whoosh, the divine lotuses burst into specks of divine light, scattering and spreading, illuminating the heavens and earth like brilliant fireworks. Immediately after, the divine light converged into a figure radiating 7-colored brilliance, floating and sinking, bearing a 9/10 resemblance to Shanren, but even more majestic and domineering. Natal divine aspect. Divine lotus transforms into divine aspect. Saint King realm, first heaven. Shanren's eyes were domineering, and his aura was formidable. Breaking through from the peak of the 9th stage of the Great Saint realm to the Saint King realm was incredibly difficult and fraught with danger. One wrong move, and one's realm would regress instead of advancing. But now, Shanren possessed the primordial chaos Dao embryo, which naturally harmonized with all Dao laws, and his battle god body was greatly accomplished, his physical strength already far exceeding his own realm. Furthermore, having cultivated the upper realm immortal art to its introductory stage, breaking through was merely a matter of course, naturally occurring. Shanren is destined to suppress an era, Li Fufeng said confidently. After his realm stabilized, Li Shanren began to touch the second Dao sealing stone, an immortal art for cultivating the soul, the Kuanpeng condensing spirit art. Profound and abstruse cultivation techniques flooded into his mind. A shocking phenomenon reappeared. A phantom of a Kuanpeng, tens of thousands of miles long and wide, appeared in the sky, looking down on the nine heavens. Currently, with insufficient spiritual energy and vital essence, he couldn't cultivate it. Li Shanren then proceeded to touch the third Dao sealing stone, and the fourth. Physical divine ability, heaven and earth dharma aspect. Soul divine ability, soul, sea, Brahma, heaven. Two immortal arts. The Nine Dragons purple heaven art for body refining, the Kuanpeng condensing spirit art for soul refining. Cultivating both internally and externally, unmatched, his path of cultivation would be even smoother and unhindered. Two supreme divine abilities. The heaven and earth dharma aspect stimulated physical strength, dominating heaven and earth. The soul sea Brahma heaven displayed the power of the soul, awe-inspiring the universe. After practicing them, Dao rhymes flowed around Li Shanren's body. Subtle heavenly laws enveloped his skin. Profound truths of the great Dao shimmered within. The phantom of his natal divine aspect floated and sank in his eyes, and surging chi and blood churned within him. It's a pity, Shanren, that you don't have a Dao embryo. Your magic power is limited. Otherwise, your future would be even more brilliant. In Li Fufeng's view, Li Shanren had a divine body, immortal bones, and supreme blood. If he also had a Dao embryo, it would be even better. He didn't know that Li Shanren had already obtained the legendary first Dao embryo, the primordial chaos Dao embryo. Just then, the system's voice sounded in Li Shanren's mind. Ding! A new mission has arrived. Do you accept? Chapter 23, Being a Qualified Villain. Accept. Li Shanren didn't hesitate, decisively accepting the new mission. The system was giving him a cheat. How could he refuse? Ding! Congratulations to the host for accepting the mission. The divine sword emerges, the peerless sword saint, a celestial, flying immortal, a sword that shakes the heavens. Mission objective: seize the divine sword, trample the sword's son, and initially display the villain's sharp edge. Please be a qualified villain, host. Mission brief: Yi Guqing, under your command, lacks a sword. The peerless divine sword, nurtured for 9 epochs by the myriad sword divine sect, is about to emerge. This is a decent sword. Please retrieve it, and let Yi Guqing try if it's suitable. Mission rewards: obtain the title Villain Cannon Fodder, 10 million upgrade experience points. Myriad Sword Divine Sect. In terms of overall foundation, it was in no way weaker than the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, and perhaps even slightly superior. The forces of the Emperor God Continent were divided into various ranks, among which the most profound and powerful were the immortal forces. But immortal forces also had their own hierarchy. Among the most powerful and glorious immortal forces on the surface were the 10 great families, 9 ancient clans, 8 sacred lands, 7 great sects, 6 divine sects, 5 imperial dynasties for ancient temples, 3 islands, 2 halls, and 1 calamity. In addition to the above well-known immortal forces, it was rumored that in the Forbidden Abyss, Tianyin Divine Mountain, the 9 unknowable lands, and some forbidden areas, there also existed some terrifying forces, but for some reason, they had not yet appeared in the world. The Su family, where Su Qingyu belonged, was a top-tier existence among the 10 great families, known as the First Immortal Family. The Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, on the other hand, was the head of the 5 great imperial dynasties. Although the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty had now developed into a top-tier immortal imperial dynasty, it was not among the 5 great imperial dynasties. Even the weakest of the 5 great imperial dynasties, the Tianyuan Imperial Dynasty, could annihilate the Azure Luan Imperial Dynasty if it wished. That's why the Qianyuan Imperial Lord had previously declared that he would destroy Azure Luan. This was not just empty talk. Myriad Sword Divine Sect. It was precisely the first immortal divine sect of the Emperor God Continent. It was known for its unparalleled swordsmanship, a unique mastery of the sword, the king among swords in the Emperor God Continent, and had dominated the sword Dao for countless epochs in the Emperor God Continent. All sword cultivators in the Emperor God Continent, when encountering a sword cultivator from the Myriad Sword Divine sect with the same cultivation level, would choose to walk around them. Otherwise, they would have to bow their heads, as if a junior meeting an elder. The Myriad Sword Divine sect, like the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, had a long heritage and both had backing in the upper realm. This was precisely the fundamental reason why they could each become first. Having backing, and strong backing at that, was essential for flourishing development. The difference, however, was that the Myriad Sword Divine sect's backing had been assisting the Myriad Sword Divine sect for nearly 10 epochs. Whereas the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty's backing, the Great Tang Immortal Court, had not concerned itself with the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty for several epochs now. The reason was simple: it wasn't worth it. In these epochs, sword Dao geniuses from the Myriad Sword Divine sect emerged endlessly, suppressing their peers. Naturally, they were valued by their upper realm backing, which then bestowed certain cultivation resources to assist them. Thus, they grew ever stronger and more formidable. In contrast, the Qianyuan Imperial Dynasty, although its foundation had not fallen behind much, also saw the emergence of monstrous talents during this period. Unfortunately, the Great Tang Lord in the upper realm had too high standards and didn't take notice. As a result, their influence became less and less than before. Had Li Shanren not triggered an extreme anomaly when his battle god body reached completion, the Great Tang Lord might have even forgotten that he had such a blood-related force in the lower realm. However, this Great Tang Lord was also very generous. He bestowed 2 immortal techniques and 2 ultimate divine abilities upon Li Shanren in one go, which was unprecedented. Other immortal forces, at most, received divine-tier cultivation methods as gifts from the upper realm, and even those were incomplete. Even the Myriad Sword Divine sect had never received an immortal technique from its upper realm backing. In short, talent determines the degree of importance your backing places on you. Li Shanren's talent was worthy of immortal techniques descending to the lower realm. In the past 9 epochs, the greatest boon the Myriad Sword Divine sect had received from its upper realm backing was precisely a Peerless Divine Sword. It had been sealed in the Myriad Sword Divine Mountain, bathed in countless sword chi, and nurtured by peerless sword intent. 3 days ago, the Myriad Sword Divine sect widely invited top sword cultivators from all over the world to gather at Myriad Sword Divine Mountain to witness the emergence of the Divine Sword. This was to bolster the prestige of the sword sect. At the same time, it was also to allow the Divine Sword to be revered by countless sword cultivators after its emergence. A precious divine sword nurtured for 9 epochs would certainly not be easily taken away by others. This mission is not simple. Also, what's with getting the title Villain Cannon Fodder after completing the mission? Could it be that in the system's eyes, I don't even count as cannon fodder right now? Li Shanren couldn't help but complain inwardly, while also glancing at Yi Guqing behind him. Yi Guqing still had an expression as calm as water, aloof, arrogant, dressed in white, transcendent and ethereal, like an exiled immortal descended to the mortal world. Looking closely, his hands hung naturally empty. He indeed had no sword on him. Previously, when Yi Guqing acted, he always used his fingers as a sword, with sword chi crisscrossing, piercing the air and injuring people. Li Shanren had thought he had already achieved the unity of man and sword and no longer needed a sword. It turns out he just hadn't found a suitable weapon yet. As Li Shanren looked at Yi Guqing, Li Fufeng was also observing this peerless sword cultivator. The anomalies generated when Li Shanren cultivated the immortal techniques and divine abilities earlier were truly extraordinary, moving Li Fufeng several times. However, Li Fufeng noticed this white-clad sword cultivator, from beginning to end, showed no change in expression, as if nothing had happened. Or rather, the anomalies of the immortal techniques and divine abilities were nothing remarkable to him. He remained as before, holding back, his aura locked onto Li Shanren, like a sharp sword ready to be drawn at any moment. Anyone who dared to harm Li Shanren, he would surely kill with a single sword stroke. Just now, to verify the sword cultivator's loyalty to Li Shanren, Li Fufeng deliberately revealed a trace of killing intent towards Li Shanren. But as soon as his killing intent was released, he felt a fierce and terrifying sword intent instantly envelop him. The opponent was clearly not his match, but he was still resolutely preparing to draw his sword, utterly fearless. A sword cultivator with such a disposition was truly rare. Li Fufeng looked at Li Shanren and couldn't help but ask, "Shanren, where did you meet this sword cultivator? Where is he from?" In reality, what he most wanted to ask was, how could Li Shanren make this sword cultivator loyal and subservient? Even though Li Shanren possessed the extreme battle god body, Li Fufeng still felt a little uncertain. A sword cultivator of this caliber must have an extraordinary physique, and his talent certainly wouldn't be poor. The key was his unwavering disposition, completely unmoved by external factors. To protect Li Shanren, he feared no death. And there was that air of aloof arrogance and transcendent demeanor he exuded with every glance. How could such a person be content to be subservient to others? Yi Guqing heard these words, his eyes still as an ancient well, exceptionally indifferent. His name is Yi Guqing. He used to be a rogue cultivator, and now he is my sword's servant. Li Shanren's gaze was firm, not directly answering, maintaining Yi Guqing's mystique. Even if he wanted to answer, how would he answer? Yi Guqing, from White Cloud City, connected by the system? Seeing that Li Shanren was unwilling to say more, Li Fufeng changed the subject and said, "You triggered an extreme anomaly, and many forces prodigies have noticed you. The Toba ancient clan has already announced that in 3 days, that young brat with the Overlord God body will come to visit my Qianyuan imperial dynasty.